the clarity that you are looking for is clarity that does not matter. If I go into Hasan or Vaush's community, there is a ton of clarity on whether or not Lauren Southern or Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. And in my community, there is far less clarity, far less clarity. Now you might look at that and you might go, wow, that's really good. There's a lot of clarity in Vaush's community and in Hasan's community, and there's none in your community. And you might say, look at that lack of clarity, look at that confusion. But what I would say is you're looking for clarity in the wrong place. You're looking for clarity on whether or not people have unified around a tribally defined word. And in that sense, other communities do have more clarity than mine. But when it comes to stated positions, there is total obfuscation in both Vaush's subreddit and Hasan's subreddit. They do not know a single policy position of almost any of the people that they criticize. But if you go into my subreddit, they're arguing, is he a Nazi or is he not? Well, he said this, and this, and then he said this, and this. They're actually engaging with the content. They're arguing back and forth on facts of the matter. If I go into Vaush's community, there is 100% clarity on whether or not Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. There's about 90% clarity on whether or not I'm far right. But there's 0% clarity on any of our policy positions. So when you ask me, do you see how you're obfuscating? I could guess, sure, maybe I'm obfuscating around the term Nazi or the term fascist, but that's not where I want clarity on, because I don't give a f about the tribally defined words. I just want my community to understand what the people think. Let me start off by saying I like MrGirl. We're friends. I appreciate pushback, even though apparently I don't like criticism or whatever. So, yesterday in the conversation with him, I'm pretty sure he talked for 80% of the time, number one. Also, he accused me multiple times of being bad faith and dishonest and cowardly, even though I'll bring him on as many times as he wants to have the conversation, okay? And then he also accused me like 10 times of gaslighting. What the fuck? And I'm like, I'm trying so hard to write down, like, bro, I'm writing down everything you're saying. And I'm asking you, is it okay if I say, is that? And then I'm letting him talk for like 5 to 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, but I'm trying to fight, or I'm letting him talk for like 5 minutes. And then I try to talk for like 20 seconds and then I get cut off. And then he calls me cowardly for not answering the question. It's like, bro, I can't even speak. And then people are coming to my subreddit and when Destiny doesn't know how to respond, he just obfuscates. Bro, I don't have time to talk. I don't have time to say anything. I can't even speak. Max is really pushing Destiny up against the wall on whether or not Destiny regards Nick to be a Nazi or not. And then all of a sudden, the world becomes so complicated.
Sounds exactly like something a gaslighting coward would say.
Suddenly, out comes a philosophy of language conversation. Suddenly, the legitimate disagreement has faded away and Max is to understand the complexity. Are you serious? It actually reminded me of how Vaush often goes to say that words don't mean anything, language is complicated when not knowing what to say. Dude, I tried so many times yesterday to like, bro, I'm writing down exactly what you're saying. I'm trying to respond to exactly, and I can't talk at all, and I'm getting interrupted so many times. It's like unbelievable. Holy shit. It just shows how strong and consistent Max was being. What got me was when Destiny was being adamant about not labeling Nick a Nazi. Then when Max brings up that he called him a Nazi on Twitter, it's like an immediate goalpost shifting. I like Destiny a lot. I respect him a lot. But him not being able to concede when he's clearly in the wrong is brutal to watch. I used to think it was one of his strengths. And I can't even ban these people now because MrGirl will throw a fit over it. Like, dude, I'm not being able to ban. I'm trying so hard. Yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like the Sam Cedar convo where like, I'm trying to write things down. I'm trying to respond point by point. I'm trying to be clear and concise to everything we're going through. I'm actually like, you're a gaslighter. You're gaslighting me and you are being abusive and you're a gaslighter and you're cowardly and and I'm like, bro, I'm trying so, are you serious? It's like unreal. I don't know if I need to just start like, I think in the combos, I'm not gonna let him interrupt as much. When I talk to him in the future, I think I'm just gonna be like, hey, stop. I'm gonna start like shouting over him because like the amount of like being talked over, and then also, I think I'm gonna start, this might be a new rule that I have in general. I think I'm gonna establish this for convos. As soon as somebody drops a bad faith or dishonest or gaslighting or whatever accusation, they either have to walk it back immediately or I'm just gonna cut the convo off. because like for the last half of the convo, he's literally accusing me of lying the entire time, and people are still saying like, yeah, Max is being super consistent here. What? Are you serious? He's accusing me of lying. I can't say anything at this point. Like, Jesus. The philosophy of language meme is funny because Destiny acts like he's reached an unprecedented understanding, when the reality is that he's gotten worse at language games, and it is causing confusion among his audience and the people he talks to. My favorite thing about that last convo was there were like 7 different definitions of Nazi that were floated around, and both Abba and Gideon had no fucking idea what Nazi technically even meant, and they said that their audiences wouldn't know what Nazi meant. And then Max went on to say, well, actually, if you would ask a normal person in the street, you guys are online too much. If you ask a normal person, what does communist or Nazi mean? They'd be able to tell you.
As a normie, okay, because someone who's not part of this debatosphere or whatever you guys got going on.
No.
I'd rather just hear the policy.
The reason you don't want, the reason you don't know what a Nazi is because you are a terminally online debate bro. That's why you don't know what a Nazi is. A normal person, if you go up to them on the street and you say that guy's a Nazi, they don't say, oh, this word is so overused. Oh my God, everybody says everybody's a Nazi. They know what it means, especially a older person. Like
I would bet $100,000. I would bet $100,000. I would go up to 10 normies on the street, ask them what a Nazi is, and each of them would give me mostly incoherent definitions of it. I would bet. I will put my life savings on that. The fact that you sat there and said, "Was that?"
Yeah, that's obviously true. If you ask somebody what a Nazi is, they're going to say somebody that doesn't like Jewish people. That's going to be or they'll say World War II Germany. That's what they're going to say. They're going to have no idea.
World War II Germany is a fine answer.
Hold on. No, because
that is what I'm saying.
I'm
saying no, it does. I'm saying look at pictures.
Oh my goodness. Like,
oh, I know. I'm so soy, Steven. I'm so overreacting.
Hold on. I'm telling you.
Let me finish.
Hold on. I just said like 4 words, okay? The fact that you would appeal to older people knowing what a Nazi is. When we went through a whole era of the Red Scare, where my mom and dad think that every fucking Democrat is a communist, means that obviously older people don't have good grasps of what these terms mean, okay? And before we got into this era of politics, when I was younger,
Democrats are communists is not the same as not knowing what a communist is. If you ask them what a communist is, they're not going to say Hillary Clinton or AOC.
Yeah, they absolutely would.
They're going to say Stalin.
No, they're going to say no.
If you say to somebody on the street, give me your best example. Give me your best example of a Nazi. You think that they're going to say what? Bush?
If you ask somebody what is a communist, they're going to say somebody that is for big government spending. That's what they're going to say a communist is. Bro, I grew up in a Republican Party. Every single fucking Republican in the fucking neocon era thought every single Democrat was a fucking communist. What the fuck are you talking about? We literally had a whole Red Scare in this country where every left-leaning person was called a communist. How could you say that? Oh my God. Destiny, the convo was fine. I think stuff went in circles because MrGirl didn't trust you understood him, and the tone of your high effort responses could... No, you are wrong. The convo was not fine. The convo was a dumpster fire, and it was 100% because of Max's unwillingness to engage with what I was saying. You are wrong. I'm not going to both sides of that conversation. I tried really hard to write down every single point, and I told him I'm gonna respond to everything he said. If you want to go point by point, we can, but I need shorter responses. I repeated that like 5 or 10 times. I said, hold on, I need to respond to this. Hold on, I need to respond to this. I would write down 7 things he would say, and he would try to interrupt me at every single point, every single fucking point. I'd be like, okay, well, here's point 1. No, hold on, let me finish. Okay, so this is my response to point 1. Okay, no, here's hold on, let me finish. Here's my response to point 1. Hold on, let me finish. Like every single time, it was impossible. And then he was accusing me of gaslighting. Bro, anytime somebody says gaslighting, like 10 times in the conversation, are you serious? I'm literally writing down the fucking exact words that you were saying. I'm asking you, if you don't agree with my characterization, then tell me, and we can change it, or we can talk about something different. Like, unfortunately, some of this audience is under the delusion that Destiny's motivation with Nick is some grand calculation of harm reduction versus inroads and reachability to those on the right. He half-heartedly argues this too, but unconvincingly. While he uses legitimate arguments for how to reach people with opposing views, it seems like it's nothing more than a post hoc justification or a positive byproduct of his interactions with Nick. His real motivation is one he's been saying all along, and one he's reinforced ever since he started in politics. He just wants to chat and befriend people he finds interesting. And challenging, I would add. Further, while he hasn't said as much lately, he used to frequently emphasize that he's not in politics to advocate any cause, but to explore arguments. Is he going to grow Nick and his platform? Almost certainly. Will he change enough right/grouper mindsets to offset that? Who knows? At the end of the day, you'll only frustrate yourself if you're expecting Destiny to put general harm reduction concern over his own interests with this. You just have to decide if you can stomach watching him have ice cream with Fuentes every now and then. Things like this makes me think MrGirl is correct with his assessment that Destiny is unintentionally or intentionally providing cover for Nick Fuentes, because either he was being dishonest or too heated in the debate to think about this opinion. I was the one that was too heated? He's calling me a gaslighter like 20 times. I'm sorry. I read like all these threads this morning, so I've already read most of it. Like, Jesus Christ. There's a few people towards the bottom. It's fascinating to me how extremely different these conversations come off to people. I saw that whole exchange is unpacking how complicated the issue is for one person, while the other person wants to simplify it into an insult to justify all the baggage that gets loaded onto it. It must be unimaginably frustrating to have someone scream at you about how not seriously you're taking the conversation, only to have people claim you're obfuscating with debate tactics when you take the conversation serious enough to define your terms properly. This wasn't a casual conversation or the subject of a joke. How the word was being applied had massive implications to the way they continued that conversation, because it meant Mr. Girl could assume the outcomes and policies Nick wanted instead of dealing with the individual outcomes and policies themselves. Jesus. If you don't think Max didn't understand Destiny's point of view, which you summarized here in the first 5 minutes of the previous conversation, not even this one, then you don't understand anything about how Max operates. Abba and Gideon proved Mr. Girl right. They showed how the average person would just hand wave away all the crazy shit Fuentes believes in because there is no way he will ever do what he wants, and there is no way someone would actually be convinced by what he's saying. They would just join the joke and treat it like it was a big meme competition. How do you even walk away with this idea? When I thought the whole thing that Alba and Ginny were saying, oh yeah, when you call someone a Nazi, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, I just think that they're like a fucking, what do they say? I don't even remember what, I don't remember what Abba said. Destiny, your opinion on how to go about Nick is correct, but you seem to not be reaching a lot of people with your explanation. What are they missing, you think? I don't know. You can go watch my conversation with Irk yesterday if you want. Even explaining it makes me sound pretentious, but I don't even like to dive into it. It's just, language is very, very, very complicated, but everybody thinks that language is like very simple. And the problem is that everybody practices language even without understanding it. And so it's very autistic to try to even have a debate. I actually like this. I like this arc because in a way one, I've gathered more information over the past month or two about language in general. And then two, I can go all the way back to Matt Walsh's documentary and I can see how like everything is connected. I'm having a V for Vendetta moment. What is a woman? Well, when people are pushing for like rigid definitions for words that apply in all contexts, that there's some conventional use that applies to all contexts, that's just not how language works. That's just not how we use words ever. And these labels like Nazi or fascist or any of this shit don't escape that. It's the same shit. Or pedophile or groomer or anything else. But then if I say that, I sound like I'm obfuscating, I guess. So. Something I haven't seen pointed out about the MrGirl Fuentes debate. I could be wrong, but my impression of MrGirl is unwilling to actually discuss in a debate what Nick's true beliefs are, and simply throwing out and calling the Nazi optic looks weak and pathetic. I could be wrong, but my impression of MrGirl's... Oh, I don't think there's anything soy about calling someone a Nazi if you want to. He wants to use quotes from Nick, probably hilarious jokes, and he interprets his true beliefs. Then he calls him a Nazi without asking any further. Well, Max, if that's your bar for calling someone a Nazi, what's the difference between that and someone calling you a pedophile for saying a 12-year-old is hot? Without his credibility and willingness to talk... I already said this, but he said it's different because he's not actually a pedophile and Nick is a Nazi or something, or not. I don't know. Jesus, man. Do you think you have an example of a person you would label a Nazi by your own definition? Like, I feel like 4 or 5 years ago even, or 3 or 4 years ago, when the Trump stuff started to get more popular, I started to say that, like, you could probably find old YouTube videos talking about it, that I kind of drop things like progressive or conservative or liberal or whatever. Like, I know I still I play with these words a little bit, but every time they're brought up in a conversation, I have to go forward and like clarify more to me. Like, oh, what is your political beliefs? I'm like a progressive, but I'm not like a crazy far left progressive. Like you have to, like, these words just, they mean so many different things in so many different contexts, depending on their use, that when I say a word, it doesn't really invoke much meaning anymore, or it invokes too much meaning, or I lose control of the meaning that it invokes. Like when I use the word toxic in front of Sneeko, I've instantly like invoked a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't mean to or didn't want to, and it triggered him out of the rest of that conversation like a month ago or a few weeks ago or whatever, right? Yeah. Oh boy, a critical engagement with Destiny and MrGirl's debate on the label Nazi. 9 upvotes. Oh shit, this one must have agreed with me. 9 upvotes. Maybe it was written like shit. Oh, here's one thing though, because even if I think that people are being lunatics, I shouldn't say lunatics. I will try to, I'll try to extract something. I do use two radically different standards between posts about other people and posts about me. If you guys are critiquing other people and you're saying like, oh, like somebody pointed out there's some guy saying like, oh, Max like a man child or a man baby or blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. That shit's not gonna be allowed on the subreddit either. You guys shouldn't be doing that. I'm gonna try to read posts more as though they were written about me. So when you're criticizing other people, it's not just like at-homes or whatever. You guys shouldn't be doing that to other people as well. I let that slide too much. Or I just wasn't even aware of it before. At least you can say now your community isn't an echo chamber. I've never said that, but everybody accuses my community of being an echo chamber. It's so fucking stupid. Why are you so quick to say that Nick secretly really wants to genocide people in your previous comment with MrGirl? Do you really think he's done? The problem is like the way that he plays with the words, everything. I don't like to try. I've said this for years. I don't like to try to guess what's in people's minds. If you ask me, does Nick want to genocide people? Truly, I don't know. If I was to guess, the chances of him wanting to genocide somebody is probably higher than the average person's, for sure. Probably higher than even the average conservatives, for sure, right? Okay, does he want to? Would he if he was a leader? Well, if Nick was actually like a big political, would he actually enact a genocide? I don't know, probably higher than the average person's. Like, what are the overall possibilities? I'm not sure. What about in Nick's ideal world? In Nick's ideal world, well, Jesus Christ, what all does that mean? In an ideal world of Nick, would he genocide people? I don't know, like, I don't know how to answer any of these questions. These are like, I don't even know if he knows the answer to these questions. The questions you're asking me are so unimaginably fucking complicated. Like, if you were to ask me a question, like, Destiny, in your ideal world, like, would every gay couple get to adopt a child or something? Jesus, I don't know. I would have to think a lot about that. You know, children generally do better under gay couples than non-gay couples, but that might be because this is a selection bias, people that do adoptions versus people that just have kids. There's like a lot to think about there. When people hit me with those hard questions, there's two big problems. The first one is the small problem. The first small problem is that it's really hard to know the answer to that. I don't even know if he knows the answer to that. It is a highly multivariate question. There's a ton of different things that could influence the answer, a ton of different things that go into the question. I don't even know if he's thought that, number one. But number two, that's a small point. But number two, the most important thing is who the f cares? I don't give a fuck what exists in the idealized version of your mind or what your ideal thing is. I'm gonna deal with the rhetoric that you have now, the statements that you make now, with the policy positions you have now. That's what I'm gonna fight because that's what you're bringing out onto the battlefield, okay? I don't wanna attack chess pieces that are in the box, okay? If you wanna come out with these positions, then we'll fight with these positions. And if you weasel away from these positions because you don't really believe them, then eventually you're gonna bring out the pieces that you actually wanna fight with. That'll happen eventually. I think I wrote a section about that in my manifesto between dog whistles and whatever, that if people want to have dog whistles, then that's fine. If you want a dog whistle, I'm just going to pretend I don't hear it and I'll just take it at face value. Someone's like, I think it's okay to be white. True, I think it is okay to be white. Okay, well, I don't like BLM. Okay, let's talk about you don't like BLM. Let's do that then. Instead of you bringing up the dog whistle of like, well, I think it's okay to be white. Oh yeah? Well, I think that means you don't like BLM. That's what MrGirl wants to do. You don't like BLM. Well, I never said I don't like BLM. I just said it's okay to be white. And now you're fighting that it's okay to be white. It's like, well, now you look like an asshole. I don't want to do that. Just, if people say something, attack what they say. Go after their stated positions, and either one of two things will happen. Either one, they'll defend those positions, and then you either win or lose the argument on that, or two, they don't really believe those positions as a dog whistle, and eventually they have to retreat from there to their actual positions, and you'll fight them on those grounds, okay? That's my thing. There's no purpose whatsoever in trying to divine a person's opinions, generally. There might be limited exception to this. So, for instance, if we're talking like, entering like a long-term relationship with somebody, it might be important to try to figure it out. Or maybe like if somebody's gonna be elected president, maybe it's important to figure out like, well, hold on, are they lying about this or what do they really think? Maybe. But generally it's just not worth it when you're engaged in debate to be like, I don't think you really think that. Well, okay, well then fight the other stuff. And then either they don't think that and they'll back off it or they lose the argument. It sucks because Max had this exact same take in the conversation with Vaush, that he would empathize with Nazis, not label and dismiss them. Well, I mean, MrGirl would say he's not dismissing Nazis, he just wants to talk to them, but call them Nazis. Do you think your audience is adequately equipped to handle an ideology you won't recognize since you are only going at them at face value for language? Well, but that's the point. That's why I like to actually battle the ideas rather, because I don't think most people could argue against a Nazi, because most people don't even know what Nazis believe, let alone like how to take apart any of the things that they talk about. I am confident that given the opportunity, and I think I've done it with Max a few times now. I think I've done it twice now, where I don't think I did it last night, but I think I did it a couple days ago. It's like, oh, well, let's pretend that we're a Nazi and I'm going to talk to you about your ideology. And not to dick ride or dick wave or whatever, but I'm pretty sure I crushed him in both of those conversations. I think I can make really, really good alt-right or neo-Nazi arguments or like white supremacist arguments for how society should be structured. And people have no idea how to contend with those arguments. But yeah, people forgot about that. Max came off really bad when he pretended to talk to Destiny like he was a Nazi. Oh, true. Yeah, he just let me platform all of my ideas with no pushback at all. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm just reinforcing my own beliefs or if I'm actually going schizophrenic or what. But like, this post referring to the Destiny vs. MrGirl conversation before Ginny and Abba joined. I'm writing this post due to these posts on this sub. 400 upvoted posts accusing Destiny of obfuscating. 350 upvoted posts praising MrGirl for arguing about something he cares about. 250 upvoted posts mainly focusing on comments like this, praising MrGirl for being able to challenge and stake out points against Destiny. You'd think that with all these posts and comments on the posts, that MrGirl did very good in the conversation, asking good, thought-provoking questions while Destiny squirms in bad faith. Let me remind you what happened in the conversation. What MrGirl did in that conversation: interrupts Steven all the time, doesn't let Steven interrupt him. True. Uses zero charitability when engaging with Steven. Literally accuses him of gaslighting instead of thinking maybe he didn't understand my point several times and called me a coward. Literally being a debate bro, rants for 5 minutes when Steven tries to respond, interrupts him and performatively screams, "You don't have an answer, do you?" True. Doesn't believe what Steven says. How do you have a conversation when your opponent is literally lying? True. Accuses us of being too scared to respond when he literally won't even let him speak. True. Destiny doesn't comment about, writes down all of MrGirl's points so he can respond to them, lets him talk for 5 minutes, gets his points out. When he misunderstands what MrGirl says, he asks for clarifying questions instead of crucifying him. I'm trying to do this. Maybe I don't do this enough. Tries to steelman MrGirl's arguments instead of attacking the least charitable interpretation like MrGirl did. Takes the rhetorical L by letting MrGirl rant and rant. I'm not doing this anymore. I won't let this happen anymore. Okay? Not going to let that happen anymore. While I may not fully be on Max's side of the video, platforming Nick will directly lead to more experience. To understand his need. These conversations where Max has to flesh out and cover all the reasons platforming someone like Nick has risks. This is true. I like having challenging conversations related to platform people. That's good. I like that I have friends that can do that. That's important to me. I think that's good. But like, people just get insane about it. And then from Max screaming like, I don't think you guys are equipped to do this. I don't think you guys are equipped to do this. Both mini Nazi convos we've had, you've gotten crushed. How are you saying I'm not equipped to do this? What are you talking about? Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. Chat, yes or no? Do you agree with anything Nick stands for or believes in? Yes or no? MrGirl, how can they answer? They don't even know what he believes in or stands for. If you ask him, he's going to say, well, do you believe in like being funny? Do you believe that like women are working too much and that they should get back in the kitchen, get back to more feminine roles? Here's the problem. The things they think they disagree with is like maybe him being anti-gay or him being far right or him being a Trump supporter. What? This is by far the most disingenuous moment from Max in the discussion because he's painting Destiny's interaction with Fuentes as Destiny basically portraying him as a tradcon, and this couldn't be further from the truth. When Destiny first entered the call with Fuentes, Nico, Gideon, and Abba, he very clearly lays out how Nick will always prioritize pushing his ideology over telling the truth. He points out how slippery and dishonest he is with his positions. And in this very discussion, they explicitly talk about how in Fuentes' ideal world, Sneeko wouldn't exist. Oh, true, they do bring that up. Even Sneeko knew that. In what world can MrGirl claim that Nick has come off as a quirky, conservative incel and not a far-right fascist just because Destiny has explicitly used the word Nazi? Everyone on that panel had a better idea of what Nick believes specifically because of the types of questions Destiny forced him to answer on that panel. True. Destiny again emphasizes Fuentes' dishonesty in this part of the panel, or in this part of the debate with him and Sneeko. Look, I don't think Destiny's understanding with Fuentes was a good idea, and it's fair to criticism on that, but overall Destiny's interaction with Fuentes has been pretty exceptional. He's done about it. Thank you. Jesus Christ. Okay, in our convo yesterday, you were emotionally manipulative. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, okay?
Well, I think you're wrong. But wait, is this the topic? The topic is me being emotionally manipulative in our conversation yesterday.
I don't know what the topic is. We can wander, but I want to start here.
Okay.
I need you to realize this, okay?
Okay.
When you weaponize psych terms, you throw them around when they're clearly not applicable, I think you're doing that to undermine my arguments, and you're doing it in a very Darvo-esque way, where you are accusing me of gaslighting you because we don't agree on the conversation topic. But by making the accusation that I'm gaslighting you, you're making me wonder if I'm engaged in like a malicious behavior and not just that we're having a disagreement, which is a form of gaslighting to me. Because I'm telling you, hey, we don't agree here. I think you're saying this. Can I get clarification? I'm writing it down and asking you, which isn't a very gaslighty thing to do. And then you're saying, you're gaslighting me. You're making an intentional bad faith effort to not understand me. And you're doing that when I don't think I'm doing that. You're literally trying to rewrite my own personal history on this to confuse me or to make me lose an argument, which is gaslighting. That's very annoying to me. Okay, go. What do you think?
I think, I want to know if you think gaslighting means intentional.
No, it doesn't have to be intentional.
Okay. Do you think I was accusing you of that level of manipulation and obfuscation?
If you're not making that accusation, then using the word is in and of itself abusive. So we can hop on either one you want. You're either abusive by meaning I'm gaslighting, or you're abusive by using the word when you don't mean it. So it's one or the other.
Okay, I agree with that. I guess my question is, did you interpret... Okay, so when I said you were gaslighting me, I meant you are saying things that you know are not direct responses to what I'm saying, and that you know are unreasonably vague. And given the subject matter being that I think Fuentes is doing the same thing by intentionally muddying the waters, I'm very sensitive to you muddying the... And I feel like this happens with a lot of people I talk to, that they're muddying the waters in debates I'm having with them, and I don't know. I think it's like semi-intentional. I'm not trying to say you're doing this like big nefarious like thing. I'm just saying like the effect of what you're saying is,
when you say it's intentional, you're saying that I'm being evasive on purpose because I know that I'm incorrect on some given thing. Once you've levied that accusation, you've put me in a max hole that I can't escape from. Because now everything I say is either equivocation, or it's dodginess, or it's bad faith, or it's cowardness. Like I've lost, you have taken the ability from me to respond substantively to anything you're saying by constantly cutting me off, accusing me of gaslighting. Like I have no arguments now because everything I say is going to be either an equivocation or a dodge when you're asking me incredibly difficult questions. You're the equivalent of a conservative saying, what is a woman? And when I can't give like a one sentence answer, you're like, oh, you're dodging, you're being evasive. You don't have the exact answer.
I actually agree with them on that. I think that the gender argument, the only way a progressive can participate in the gender argument is to obfuscate. Because there's no answer. The idea of being trans, the way it is formulated, is inherently illogical.
What does obfuscate mean to you? Can we define that word?
Blockade, or like derail, block, confuse, intentionally confuse the issue or introduce confusion into the conversation.
Okay, I agree with this.
Okay. So when you're arguing with somebody about gender, my position is there's no such thing as gender, and sex is XY or XX, and that's it. And the only way, the progressive position is that we don't know. I'm not sure. Every progressive, they're going to defend trans ideology by saying, well, it's confusing. Sex is really confusing. There's stuff we don't know. There's stuff I don't know. If we had a machine that could detect, but we don't have that machine, I don't know. Like there might be some, who knows? There could be a possibility. And there's no way to actually argue with that because there is no position. They don't have a position. And that's fine. Like if that's what progressives think, that they just don't know, then okay. But I guess my problem with this is that I need you or really want you to have a position, or to just like admit that you don't.
Is there any way to introduce... What are you... Dan, you're fucking... Jesus. Okay, sorry. What? Why would I share your screen if you playing fucking Hearthstone?
Because you're doing nothing, and it's a good thing while you're doing this. You know? That's smart.
Okay. Is it ever possible that you can introduce nuance into a conversation or admit that something is really complicated, so it's going to be hard to stake out a position in every circumstance? Or is that always obfuscation?
No, it's obviously possible. That's why I'm calling it out.
So how do you determine whether or not I'm being nuanced meaning I'm trying to say that it's more complicated than a simple, is X a Nazi? Or is X a woman? Why can't I say it's more complicated than that? Or how can I say it's more complicated than that without you just going, oh, you're being a bad faith gaslighter who's obfuscating?
I think my determination on that is going to be based on you contradicting yourself. You saying things that
Okay, hold on. We're gonna go one thing at a time, and I'm gonna interrupt you when we do. Okay. So on the first thing, you said contradiction. Do you understand that you're begging the question when you say I'm contradicting myself? Because anytime I introduce more nuance, you're saying I'm obfuscating, which means anytime we disagree on this point of if I'm obfuscating or not, I'm by definition contradictory. So when you say, would you say Nazi here? And I say, well, I'd say Nazi here, but not here. You go, oh, that's a contradiction. I go, well, no, that's nuance. You go, oh, I can tell that it's not nuance. I can tell you're obfuscating because you're contradicting yourself. Well, no, that's part of what we're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay, I feel like you're doing it right now, but I don't think
stop. If you accuse me of this and you can't substantiate it, I'm hanging up the call. Because if you're just accusing me of lying, then we're done. We can't go any further in the conversation. So I need you to turn your brain on, and I need you to critically engage what I'm saying. I'm going to restate what I just said now, so that it's absolutely. And if you don't understand it, tell me, and I'll rephrase it again. Okay? So
wait, it's not that I don't. I understand.
No. Hold on. I'm rephrasing for the chat then, because you just accused me of doing it again. I'm not going to let those.
I don't want you to rephrase it.
I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway. No. I'm going to do it.
I might not think of that.
I don't care. I don't care. I have to do it.
I
have to do it again. I have to do it again. Okay? I have to do it again. Okay? So. Your issue is you're accusing me of obfuscating in the conversation. And I ask you, how do you know that I'm obfuscating and not just introducing nuance? And you say, well, I can tell that you're obfuscating by when you contradict yourself. And then I say, well, hold on. When I say Nazi could mean this or this, that's me trying to introduce nuance. But you view it as a contradiction because you don't agree with my points. So anytime I try to introduce nuance, you're going to point it out as contradiction and you're going to turn it into obfuscation, meaning I can never be nuanced because it's by your definition. You've already defined it away as obfuscation. That's my issue. Okay, go ahead. You can respond.
Okay. So the reason I said I think you're doing it now is that you are choosing my example for me. If you really wanted to know, if you're going to say, okay, point by point, like a list within a list, how are you making the determination that I'm obfuscating? And then I say, well, one example is you contradicting yourself. And then you say, okay, I'm going to latch onto that point. So within that point, how do you know I'm contradicting myself? And then you said, every time I introduce nuance, you're going to say I'm contradicting myself. But that's not true. I didn't say that. You're tautologically claiming on my behalf that there is no difference between introducing nuance and obfuscation when you just asked me if there's a difference, and I said yes. So
yeah, but you gave me
not
the
every
example
time you introduce nuance is to obfuscate, but then you just said on my behalf. Every time I introduce nuance, you say I'm obfuscating, but that's not true.
It's weird for you to say contradiction is evidence of obfuscation when we're literally arguing about whether or not I'm contradicting myself. That's the subject of the debate. I don't think that defining a word in two different contexts in different ways is contradiction, but you do. But that's fine that we disagree on that. But you can say our disagreement there is evidence that you're wrong. Well, hold on, that's literally what we're arguing about.
It started out as you asking me, my thought process for what makes me say something like, I think you're obfuscating.
Okay.
You said, how do you determine that versus introducing nuance? You asked me, is there a difference? I said, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going through my thought process, but now you're turning my thought process not just into a one bullet point of it, not just into a claim I'm making generally, which I'm not, into a claim I'm making about a specific point of your choosing now. But
you can choose your own example if you want. I just want to go. I just want to get it clear.
You just tried to choose it for me.
Okay, I'm so sorry, Max. You can choose.
I don't want an apology. I'm just pointing out that, I feel
I'm giving a hypothetical example
like
to try to test your thing. But if you don't like my example, you can say Destiny. This is disanalogous for this reason. Or Steven, this is disanalogous for this reason. Let me use this example instead. You could just give that example instead of saying you're being bad faith by giving an example. So you can provide your own example if you'd like. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that it is. Do you want me to give you an example of you contradicting yourself and why I think it was obfuscation?
Sure. Well, if you can't think of a particular one, give an example of it. You don't have to.
Well, I think it is self-contradictory to claim that you have no control over the definition of the word Nazi in your fan base or in your community, and then to also claim that the reason you don't exert control over it is because you don't care. And then also give a bunch of examples of times where you did exert control over the word Nazi in your community. Those to me, all those stances all contradict each other.
Okay. Tell me if this series of statements implies a contradiction. Okay?
Okay.
So number one, I can't control people's engagement with media outside of my community. Do you agree with that?
I don't think you can totally control it, but I think you have a lot of sway over how your community views the media. For example, like with Kyle Rittenhouse. I think that you could basically control how people who follow you interpret other people talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, if they're big fans of yours.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this again. I can't control my community's engagement with political content outside of mine. I might be able to say, like, you could maybe look at it this way or that way, but they can watch stuff other than me, right? And they can take opinions outside of my. I can't not their media diet 100%.
No, but you can control what they see when they see the same thing.
I don't know what that means. If somebody turns my stream off and they go watch Hasan or Vaush, I've lost control of that viewer for a bit.
No, you can totally control the narrative about other streamers and figures. If the person is like a huge fan of yours, you can absolutely color their view of anything you want.
Can't other people color their view of me? Couldn't Vaush or Hasan color one of my viewers' views of me?
Not the same way that you can. No, when somebody is a fan or a super fan of yours, like it doesn't matter what anybody else says about you.
Okay, so the people in my subreddit that are on your side, of which there were many threads this morning, are those? I lost all of those people as fans. They're not my fans anymore.
No, they are your fans. This is a temporary, like them viewing you as evasive or whatever. They're still fans of yours.
Okay,
though.
So then
they still
in
love
this
you
sense, another content creator, another figure, has influenced their view of something that's in a way outside of my control.
Okay, you just said like an hour ago on stream. You said you cannot. You said you cannot tell how people actually felt about the argument with me anymore because you went over it on stream. You said, once I go over something on stream, that colors my audience's perception of it so much that I no longer can even ask them what they think.
Okay, this is not a contradiction to anything that I'm saying right now. So I'm gonna ask the first question. We can deal with that subject later if you want. I'm gonna ask again. Okay. I can't believe that you're not willing to give this point. I do not control 100% of my viewers' media digest. I can't do that. They watch other stuff besides me sometimes.
Yes,
okay?
you do not 100% control it.
Okay. I can't control how words are used in other communities. Do you agree with that?
I think you can influence how words are used in some other communities, but you don't have total control over it. I agree with that.
Okay. I don't have control how words are used in other communities. If I don't control how Vaush or Hasan uses words.
That's true.
Okay. I can speak up when I think a word is used incorrectly in my community. When somebody's watching me, right? I can do that.
Yes.
Okay. And then the fourth claim, probably the most contentious one, maybe the one that we'll fight over the most, is I can't remove all context or all understanding that people have of a word outside of my community.
You cannot remove all context. Of course not.
So for instance, I very much feel like pedophile means attraction to a prepubescent person. I'm not choosing this for you, but this is one that might. Okay. Hey. I think that pedophile means attraction to a prepubescent person. Period. Full stop. That's what pedophile means to me. But there's probably a lot of people in my community that would still say like, oh, a 30-year-old attracted to a 16-year-old is a 16-year-old is a pedophile. There's still probably a lot of people that would say that, right?
Yeah. Right.
So I'm going to run through these one more time. I can't control my community's engagement with political content outside of my community. Maybe I can influence the way they view it when they come back into my community and I go over whatever, but I can't control, like, if they go watch Vaush or Hasan or something, I have no control of them in that time period. They're off watching something else, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I can't control how words are used in those other communities. So if Vaush uses fascist for whatever, I have no control over that. Yeah?
I think you can influence it indirectly, but no, you don't have direct total control over it.
I can speak up in my community when I think a word is used incorrectly. Okay, yeah?
Yeah.
I can't, and then four is, I can't totally redefine a word in my community. I can push for how I want something to be, but I can't totally like rewrite everybody's brains in my community. They're still gonna have a whole bunch of external context for what words means, and I can't control that 100%. I can push them in a certain direction.
Yeah, any of these would be an absurd claim to make.
Okay.
That you have total control over any of these things. Also, the last point of self-contradiction was that you don't care.
Okay. Given all 4 of these premises, I'm going to reread your statement that you say is full of contradictions. So you're saying that I'm making it's self-contradictory to claim that I have no control over the definition of the word Nazi in your community. So I think this is dealt with in a way in premise 2 and 3, that in my community, people are bringing with them preconceived notions of Nazi into my community, and I don't have control of that fully, and I can't rewrite that fully. So when I say, if we want to be charitable to me, I'm not going to say I don't have no control over the definition, but I can't rewrite that completely.
Well, which is it? Because I didn't make the claim that you can rewrite it completely.
Okay,
I think you have a large degree of control over how the word Nazi is used in your community.
Okay. I need you to apply the basest level of charitability to what I'm saying. Okay, because you're treating me like an unmitigated retard. Do you think that I would say that I have absolutely no control over what anybody in my community says? Do you think I would ever make a statement like that?
No, but you came kind of close last night. I think you said I can't control what my community says, how my community defines this word. And then when I pressed you on it, you said, well, I don't care. I don't care to define it in a certain way. And then I said, well, what about all these other statements you're making where you are defining it in a certain way?
Okay, we're going to dive into these statements because they're proving everything I've said.
Okay.
When I say this sentence, I can't control how my community defines a word, what do you mean by that? Because I can read this, and in the context of what I know about me, and what you should know about me, and what everybody knows about me, I think there's a very obvious way to read that statement. You tell me what you think that statement means. So I say, I can't control how my community defines a word.
I think my problem with it is that there are, I did not interpret you as meaning 100% control. And I don't think you interpreted me as meaning 100% control. I don't think either of us thought that the other person meant that. And yet, in your counterexample here, you're asking me, do I have 100% control? Which I don't think is relevant because I don't think that's what either of us meant. So I assume, when I say you have control over how people use this word, I assumed you know that I mean you have a large degree of control. That you're not going to see a DGGer saying pedophile the same way a Vaush fan does because of you, because you have changed how they think of that word.
Potentially. Okay, but
so
focusing on this,
I can't control.
So when I say I can't control how my community defines a word, what do you think I'm probably saying there? Just talk about this statement. I can't control how my community defines a word. What do you think I mean when I say this?
I think this is my problem, I guess. It sounds like, I guess my immediate thought is compared to what? So if you're saying I don't have total control, that's obvious, but then it doesn't mean anything. If you're saying I only have some control, then I'm obviously imploring you to use whatever control you do have to this effect.
Okay, now, this is an argument.
No control, that's
this
obviously
is good.
not true.
That's fine. That statement is an argument that we can actually work with and build off of. Okay? Accusing me of saying I have no control makes me look like an idiot. And then it feels like you're implying that I can have a high degree of control. And I think that makes you look like an idiot. But this statement that, like, you can exert some control, even though a lot of it is outside of your control, now we have this is something that we can discuss. Okay?
But this is why I'm accusing you of obfuscating.
I am being incredibly clear here. If anybody's obfuscated thus far, you're the one giving the evasive answers. But after all of this talking, now we've gotten to a point that I think is actually an interesting discussion, which is there are people that use words in ways that I disagree with outside of my community. And you agreed that I can't control how words are used in other communities. And you agreed that I can speak up when a word is used incorrectly in my community. But you also agreed that I can't totally redefine a word in my community. So then the question becomes, what is the struggle that you're willing to take, and is the payoff worth it? Because we both agree that I can exert some influence. Yeah. I agree with that, and you agree with that. We both also agree that a lot of it is out of my control because I can't control other communities, and I can't control how words are defined, and I can't totally redefine them in my community, right? So the question is, how much do you want to struggle against that? And that is an interesting conversation. Go ahead.
The reason I'm saying you're obfuscating is that I don't believe that you possibly could have thought I meant anything else last night. You don't think I meant that you have total control, and you don't think that I thought you meant you have zero control.
The problem is that when I would bring up an example, and when I would say, these words are used so far, they have so many different meanings now, I don't want to struggle against all of those other external meanings. I don't want to sit here and have to redefine or try to define Nazi, rapist, homophobe, whatever, in my own stream. You would always say, well, are you saying you have no control over the words? Are you saying that the community is outside of your control? You can't guide them at all?
I knew you weren't saying that.
Okay, well, that's what it felt like to me as an emotional retard creature. That was what I was hearing over and over and over again.
I don't think you're...
Correct. You didn't say I was retarded. You said worse. You assumed that I was being malicious. So it's even worse than being dumb. You assumed that I was being intentionally bad faith by saying gaslighting and evasiveness.
I'm going to settle on semi-intentional.
Okay.
But my sense is now that if you really wanted us to have a shared understanding of what I mean when I say you have control over how your community uses the word Nazi or how they think of the word Nazi, I think that you would offer back a good faith interpretation of that statement. You would say, okay, so you're saying I generally have a lot of influence over how people use the word Nazi in my community. Got it. And I would say, sure. Like, I'd be pretty amenable to that. Like, do you really think I'm going to counter that with saying, no, Stephen. I'm saying you have total 100% control over how
I do think you would try to nail me down that, because the issue that I'm having, and this is why I was writing down and trying.
Insane.
You're saying that, but I think it's insane of you. You don't know. I need you to admit this. You don't know if Nick is a Nazi inside of his mind. You can't know that. It's that information is by definition inaccessible to you. You don't know that, right? But when you're trying to nail down on me, like, do you think he would do this? Do you think he's nice? It's like, fuck, man, I don't know. Mate, what about in his ideal world? I don't know what his ideal world would. Maybe you're accusing me of being weaselly every time I refuse to stake out a hard position here. So when you say, like, can you redefine a word? Can you do this? Like, I don't know if you're asking for a one.
That's not why.
I don't. Hold on.
That's not.
I'm just saying that from my perspective, you're trying to nail me down on these ultra rigid positions where it's like, Jesus, I don't even fucking know. Like, if he was in power, if he could get the power, what he would do. I'm not sure 100%. So when I'm not taking these 100% positions, it feels like you're attacking me for it. So I don't know what you mean when you're asking me to, like, redefine words or fight for words, or you're giving me examples of how I can, like, change some words or whatever. That's what I'm trying to figure out by writing your responses down and then ask you questions to test it.
Okay. I disagree with your statement that I'm calling you weaselly for not taking a firm stance. That's not why. I don't even call you weaselly, but that's not why I'm accusing you of obfuscating.
True. You called me cowardly, spineless, and says I wasn't equipped for the conversation, and that I was gaslighting. I think those are the words you used, but not weaselly. Go ahead.
I think I called all streamers cowardly and spineless.
It was in the context of that conversation related to these topics, so it was very specifically aimed at me. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, are you saying you're mad or hurt that I used those terms, or are you asking me to defend my stance?
No, I'm not mad or hurt. I'm frustrated because once these words are brought out, the argument ends. We can't have a back and forth anymore because now you're telling me what I think and you're not listening to what I'm saying because you've already decided, oh, he's lying about this. He's being bad faith.
But the implication of that is that you never obfuscate, but maybe you do.
The problem is we're having an incredibly complicated conversation about incredibly broad political labels that I believe 90% of people could not accurately identify today. And you're saying, oh, you're not giving a rigid definition of this, you're obfuscating. I'm not obfuscating. I'm just acknowledging the hardcore political realities that we live in today.
That's not why I'm saying you're obfuscating.
Why are you saying I'm obfuscating? Okay, I'm sorry, hold on. I'm writing this down, word for word.
Okay.
Why am I obfuscating?
I think you are straw manning me with a completely untenable position by saying that if I say you have control over how your community defines this word, I must be saying you have 100% control over how your community uses the word.
Okay.
I also
so this is what it... Well, hold on. Okay? So you think I'm straw manning you with an untenable position by saying that if you're claiming that I have control over how my community defines a word, you must be saying that I have 100% control over community defines a word. So in my mind, I feel like we're fighting about the interesting conversation, which is a struggle of how much effort should I put into this versus not? So I feel like I'm giving an example where I'm saying, well, there's a lot of external ways that these words are defined as well that are out of my control. And then your response is, no, you can control it in your community. When you say that as a response, so there's two responses. You can either say that, no, you can control it in your community. That makes it sound like a binary position. But if you were to respond to me instead and you were to say, well, yeah, there is a lot of external content there that you can't deal with, but like, I think it's worth it for you to fight against that in your community, even if it's not a 100% thing, to try to like maintain some like level of, and you're gonna have to fight for it all the time, of this word's definition of community. Like a response like that would be like, okay, well, let's talk about how much we should fight for the definition. But that's not what it felt like when I was pushing back for these are why I don't fight 100% on these things. It sounds like you were always giving me a counter. It's like, oh, so you're saying this, or oh, well, you don't think that. Well, no, that made it felt like it was binary from you. That's the feeling.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we both know that I would never say I have no control and I have total control. Both of those things are false. We both know that both of us, I would hope in this conversation, think both of those statements are false, right?
It feels like a derailment when you even introduce either of those concepts, because neither you're not going to say you have zero control, and I'm not going to say you have total control. So, and this is the same thing with whether Nick is a Nazi. It's the same. I feel like it's the same obfuscation. What I'm asking you is, what is your personal assessment? Is he a Nazi? Is he not a Nazi? Or do you not know? But when I press you on that at different times, I get different answers. That feels like the obfuscation. If you just said, I don't know, and I don't care, then no, I'm not going to say you're obfuscating then. I'm not trying to reach into your mind and say that like you're contradicting your inner thoughts. I'm saying the things you are saying are contradicting other things you're saying, and then you're positioning me as being unhappy that you don't know the answer to my question or that you won't take a firm stance. My problem is that you are taking multiple contradictory yet also kind of firm stances and introducing confusion. I think the confusion serves to give you a defense of how you're handling Fuentes, but it also serves as a defense of him. And I think that by saying that I'm unhappy that you don't have that you can't read his mind, like that's such a crazy straw man. No, I'm not saying you should read his mind or that reading minds is possible. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying based on all the information you have about him, I think it's kind of important for you to make an assessment of whether or not he's like a genocidal crazy person who wants to kill people if he comes to power, or to whatever extent you think that is true. I do think you need to assess that.
Okay, here's what's happening, okay?
Okay, all right.
You're saying, is he a Nazi? And I'm saying, I'm not sure. And you're pointing out, well, you said he was a Nazi here. You said he was a Nazi here. Here you joke that he's a Nazi. Here you allude to him being a Nazi. Here you say he's not a Nazi, and right now you won't call him a Nazi. And you're saying that I'm obfuscating by not answering the question. Is that a fair summary of what you're saying?
Yes, but I just want to, again, be clear that my problem is that all those statements contradict each other, not your current answer or your current thinking.
Sure. Okay. And my assertion is none of those statements are contradictory. But the problem is we're fighting over the statement, is he a Nazi? And you think that the question you're asking me is Nick Fuentes a Nazi? That's not the question that I'm dealing with. The question I'm dealing with is, what is a Nazi? That's the question. Mm-hmm. Insofar as a Nazi is a strictly defined term, I can clearly compare it to Nick's stated positions and figure out whether or not he is or is not a Nazi. So for instance, if we go by the definition of he was part of the National Socialist Party, he's not a Nazi. If we go by the definition of has some vague anti-Semitic beliefs and is fascist, he might be a Nazi or is a Nazi. If we go by this or that...
Do you think his anti-Semitic beliefs are vague?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because he doesn't currently advocate for genocide or ethno-states. He doesn't currently advocate for, well, it depends now on how we define anti-Semitic, I guess. Anti-Semitic in reference to Nazi, or anti-Semitic in terms of like, just doesn't like Jewish people?
Whatever you meant when you used the word.
Well, if you don't know, hold on.
Definition.
If you don't know what I meant when I used the word, then for you to say, well, don't you think he is that, when you don't even know what I mean when I say that, I'm not saying disingenuous intention from your part, but you're asking me an empty question. You don't actually even know what I'm saying. at that point.
One of us is being disingenuous when that exchange happens. I agree, and we both think it's the other.
I don't think we're both being disingenuous. I think that we both have in our mind an understanding of what anti-Semitic means. That's the whole point of this conversation.
I think you're being disingenuous when you say he has vague anti-Semitic beliefs.
Do you agree?
I believe that you have a definition of anti-Semitic, and you have a definition of specific, and I believe that Fuentes' beliefs meet both of those criteria.
Okay. Do you believe that different opinions of what could be anti-Semitism exist?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then if that's the case, when I ask, or when you ask, is Nick Fuentes anti-Semitic, we have to define that. If I just say yes or no, we could be both talking about different things, right?
We could, but I trust you to have a pretty reasonable definition of anti-Semitic.
No, not when we're literally debating the meanings of these words. These are the beetle in the boxes. Wait, like you don't know what anti-Semitic means when I say it.
Okay, I think that's an obfuscation to say that that's what we're doing.
Okay, here's a question: is somebody that makes an anti-Semitic joke an anti-Semite?
No.
Okay, is somebody that thinks that Jewish people have a disproportionate outlay of control of media or entertainment in the United States anti-Semitic?
It depends how much time they spend thinking about that, but if just thinking that, no.
Okay. Is somebody that believes that Israel has an unfair treatment of Palestinians anti-Semitic?
No.
Is somebody that is anti-Zionist, so they don't support like the nation of Israel, or they believe that Israelis engage in apartheid against Palestinians, are they anti-Semitic?
No.
Is somebody that wants to curb the influence, the disproportionate influence that Jewish people have over media, are those people anti-Semitic?
Starting to get there, yeah.
Okay, starting to get there. So I think that the anti-Semitism that I've seen... one final question. Is somebody that makes anti-Semitic jokes an anti-Semite?
I think it depends on the context or how often. At some point, if you keep making anti-Semitic jokes, at some point, I'm going to start thinking of you as hating Jews. Yeah.
Sure. So,
but I don't agree that this is the conversation. Like,
well, hold on, no, this is the conversation. You don't want to have.
I don't agree.
I know.
You're
wrong.
About
but
what
you're
the
wrong.
Conversation is.
This is the conversation.
Okay.
Because you're asking me.
To make this clear that I don't.
That's fine that you think that.
You're doing.
You're asking me is somebody X, and I'm telling you we need to define X, and now we're walking through now, and you can see how complicated it is to define X.
I don't agree. I guess
you're wrong though. This isn't an agree or disagree.
So it's up to you.
You're wrong.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I can either make my case for why I don't think this is the right conversation, why I think it's obfuscating to frame it this way, or we can stay in your frame and I'll continue down your line of questioning. I'm happy to go either way, but I do need to interject and say that I don't think this is right.
I'm trying to point out to you the futility of the initial question, is he a Nazi? The first qualifier we're getting to Nazi is anti-Semitism, and you've already admitted that who is considered anti-Semitic can be up for discussion. There's a broad range of what is considered anti-Semitic. If there's a broad range of what is anti-Semitic, there's probably a broad range of what is a Nazi. So asking the question, is he a Nazi, is definitionally an open-ended question. But when I point out
I don't agree with that.
It logically follows. It's deductively true.
I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with your premise, and I don't agree with your framing. But if you want to keep asking about anti-Semitism, I will answer your questions, and I will be patient, and I will not interrupt. But I do want to interject that I think you're obfuscating by even framing it this way.
Okay, I think it's going to be impossible to move me off of this framing, but if you make a very compelling argument, I can be moved. So go for it.
When I talk about the definitions of these words, I'm talking about your definition.
You don't know what my definition is on any of these words.
That's right. Absolutely. I don't. But I know you decently well, and I trust you to formulate a definition of anti-Semitism that I would probably agree with, or that I think has utility. I also trust you to formulate a definition of Nazi, pedophile, murderer, rapist. All these words are words that you use a lot. You run into other people using them, and 99% of the time when I hear you argue about them, I agree with you. So even if it's not going to be my definition, I'm talking about your definition. So whatever your definition is, I'm fine with you using in this conversation. I don't even need to know what it is, and I'm not even going to ask you what it is.
Okay.
If I said, is Nick Fuentes a Nazi, and you said no, that would mean a lot to me. I would probably ask you why you said that, but I wouldn't start picking apart your definition of Nazi. So the framing of, again, we have an equal sign. We got anti-Semite on one side, and we got Nick Fuentes on the other. And the question is the equal sign deserved?
Yeah.
I'm saying you, in your heart, do you think Nick Fuentes is a Nazi, however you define Nick Fuentes, however you define him being that. Is it his secret beliefs? Is it what he does? Is it what he says? Is it his effect on the world? Whatever. Is it his fan base? Whatever the fuck you want it to be, you can do whatever you want with it. And you can define Nazi however you want. But I think, so what I'm saying you have a moral imperative to do is not to agree with me that Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. It's to formulate an opinion of Nick Fuentes, formulate an opinion of Nazi, and then make a decision about how you're going to use these words or if you're not going to use these words. What's concerning to me is that you're using the word Nazi in a serious way, in a playful way. You're saying he is a Nazi and you're saying he isn't a Nazi. And my problem with this is I believe Nick Fuentes' game plan is to make it confusing whether he's a Nazi or not. And I believe that you are introducing the same confusion that unnecessarily.
I understand.
By making it into a semantic argument.
Yes. Okay. Everything that you've laid out in this argument, I believe, proves my paradigm and how I view the language being used. Okay. So, but you are, in my opinion, misrepresenting, not intentionally, but I think you're misrepresenting the strength of the words that you're using. So you say, for instance, is somebody a Nazi? The way that you define this Nazi word or pedophile or murderer or rapist is done in a tribalistic manner. You're not appealing to an objective definition of Nazi. You're telling me, I trust you, I know you, I think that we'll agree on the definitions roughly for these words. That's the problem, is that when different tribes of people are connecting on the internet, they've tribalistically determined what the definitions of some of these broader words are. If I talk to a lot of people on the right, things like groomer and pedophile are going to be broadly applied across the LGBT group because they also trust each other to have a tribalistic family way of defining these words. So when you ask me, I want you to formulate an opinion of Nick Fuentes, and I want you to formulate an opinion of all of these things to tell me like what you feel about these things. What I'm pushing back on is that that's fine, and if it's in a one-on-one conversation, maybe I'll say it, but in front of an audience, there's all sorts of different tribes butting up against each other with different definitions that are all different. So when you ask me, is somebody a Nazi, you're referring to 27 different things all at once. And I don't want to answer yes to that because I can't commit him to everybody's different definition of the word Nazi. We already had a conversation. We can't even agree on what anti-Semitism is. And you want me to agree on a definition of Nazi that I would hold somebody to publicly?
I don't want you to agree with other people. I want you to agree with yourself. Say your definition, and then that'll be it. And people will know what you meant when you said it, just like you gave the definition of the word pedophile.
That's not true.
Pedophile. You used the word pedophile just now.
If I was to,
wait. Let me finish. Now who's interrupting who? You used the word pedophile just now, and you said, here's my definition of pedophile. Other people have different definitions of pedophile. This one is mine. And then you used the word. No ambiguity, no confusion. If there's 27 definitions, you just got rid of 26 of them, and then you're fine using the word. When it comes to the word Nazi and Nick Fuentes, you don't want to do that. And that's all I'm asking you to do, is have your definition, tell us what it is, and then use it.
Okay, that is not true. Everything you just said is not true. You're worried that he is going to play in my definition if I'm not willing to like stake out a moral position on it. But what you just said, I just want you to say if he adheres to your definition of Nazi. Well, what if I define Nazi in a really strict sense and I say no? You're not going to be happy with that. You're going to have a problem with that. Right?
I'm not going to have this problem with it. My problem is that you're obfuscating and creating confusion for Fuentes'
I understand.
benefit,
You've said this 50 million
times. And for your own benefit.
Let me repeat.
Then don't tell me I'm going to... Don't. Then wait.
Okay.
Then when you say you're going to have a problem with it, like, yeah, I might not like it if you say the word Nazi is relegated to only describe people who are dead. We can never use it to describe somebody who's alive because if they were alive, they'd be over 120 and they would be the oldest person on Earth or something. Like, yeah, if you're going to use the word Nazi that strictly, I'm going to have a problem with the utility of your definition. But that's a different problem than the problem I'm having. Your goal in the conversation is not to make me happy, and that's not what I'm asking you to do. That's an unfair framing. I'm asking you specifically to have a definition of Nazi, tell us what it is, and then have a definition of Fuentes, and tell us if you think he meets that definition. Or if you don't have a definition, just say you don't have a definition. Say, I don't know what a Nazi is and I don't want to use that word, and then stop using it.
Okay,
or let's say I have a definition, but I don't know what Nick Fuentes is. But my problem is you won't answer this clearly and consistently and concisely.
Okay, so you just want me to give you my definition of Nazi.
Yes.
And then say, okay. So I think that my definition of Nazi generally employs, number one, a high level of conspiratorial anti-Semitism, not just actual observations about Jewish people. So claiming that there are some type of like insidious plots can be a big part of that anti-Semitic thing, especially plots against your native race, right? So that's a big form of anti-Semitism. So number one, that's a pretty important qualifier. Number two is usually some sort of outward violence, or at the very least state-sponsored violence against ethnic minorities or other undesirables. So for instance, having like a state-sponsored plan to export or kill certain people of certain ethnic groups or certain people of like LGBT persuasions or other types of quote-unquote undesirables, right?
Okay, can I ask a clarifying question?
Go ahead.
Does wanting state-sponsored violence count, or you're saying you have to actually act in state-sponsored violence?
No, it'd be the desire for it would make you, right. And then thirdly is generally Nazis want to build some form of fascist state. So meaning they don't care about fucking democracy. They don't give a fuck about fucking Congress or any shit like that. Like they want a single party, populist ruler, authoritarian, possibly totalitarian, vertical control of society. That's usually what I think of when I'm thinking of like neo-Nazi or Nazi. Those are the things that I'm thinking of. Insofar as that goes, Fuentes' outward positions are not there on, I don't think, on any of those three topics. Maybe a little bit on the third one, but on the first two, that is not his outward positions. So if you were to ask me, is America First a neo-Nazi movement or a Nazi movement? Probably not. I don't think so. Now, are there neo-Nazis in that movement? Almost certainly so. It's a large movement and it's very far right. And I think a lot of the rhetoric can be kind of amenable to those people. And if you ask me, is Nick Fuentes secretly a neo-Nazi? He could be. But that would be my stated positions on those three things. On Fuentes, on America First as a movement, the people in America First, and inside Nick's mind. So where would you go then from there?
I want to ask you just bullet point by bullet point.
Go.
You don't believe that Fuentes engages in conspiratorial anti-Semitism?
I haven't heard it as part of his stuff recently, but I could be shown clips that would convince me otherwise. Let me give a quick example of the two of these things. So if he says something like, I think that Jewish people all tend to vote or push politics in a certain way where they're kind of like, they want to always support Israel and they're kind of like fucking always looking out for themselves and shit, and it fucks the rest of us over a little bit. I don't think that that rises to the level of Jewish conspiracy. But if he says something akin to like what Lauren Southern used to say with The Great Replacement, where he's like, I think there's a plan where these people are intentionally trying to eradicate white people, then that rises to a level of like Jewish conspiracy.
I'm just saying, based on what you know of him,
based on his recent rhetoric,
based on what you have already heard him say.
Yeah. Based of this, what I've heard recently, but this is something that I could be moved on. Somebody could send me a clip and go, he could say something like, oh yeah, Jewish people, I think they're actually really trying to fuck over white people. Like, oh yeah,
okay, so are you saying I don't know? Or are you saying, so like if somebody asked you about me, they said, do you think that Max engages in anti-Semitic conspiratorial thinking?
No, absolutely. I don't think so. I've never heard you even flirt with the ideas before.
Okay. So at somewhere between me and Nick or Lauren, us flip switches or switch flips, and then you say, okay, now I think you're maybe blah blah. So are you saying you don't know? Are you saying probably not, yes or no?
He's never brought it up anywhere in a convo with me or alluded to it in a debate that I've seen him have, and I haven't been presented with content. So, but obviously his ideology lends itself towards those types of beliefs. So it's possible, but I wouldn't accuse him of having those beliefs because I haven't heard them. I haven't had them presented to me. I've had a lot of people email me about shit that he says and things. Yeah.
Are you not willing to give a one-word answer?
No, not on this. No. And I think asking for one is bad faith. I would make that accusation. Because clearly I don't care.
I think it would be bad faith for me to attack you for not giving one.
Okay.
But I want one, and if you don't want to give it, that's fine.
Okay, what is your one-word question?
I guess the choices I would give you are, the question is, does Nick Fuentes engage in anti-Semitic conspiracies? Or traffic in them?
Yeah, I'd say no, but it would be based on what I've seen so far. My mind could be changed to that. Somebody can send me a clip in it, but as of what I've seen so far, no.
Okay. And then what was the second criteria for being a Nazi? It wasn't fascism, it wasn't dictatorship. It was.
It's usually calling for like violent
against...
pogroms and shit like that, and like trying to like put people in camps of like undesirables and ethnic people. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that Nick Fuentes wants to do that?
I haven't seen it. I haven't heard or seen that. And it seems like he speaks to the contrary of that a lot.
Will you give a one-word answer?
The answer would be no. I don't think he engages in that. No.
Okay, so no conspiracy, no anti-Semitic conspiracy, no desire for violence against minorities.
Yes. No, yes as in no. Yeah.
Right, got it. Okay. And then the third one is fascism.
Fascism, I'm not as sure, because he says weird shit about how he wants like a Christian monarchy. I don't know what the fuck he means by that, if he's actually sincere on that. I know that his group, he tries to get people to engage with the political system. So like he went up and supported Laura Loomer and shit. He might be illiberal. He might be anti-democratic though. I don't know if he would like lean full into fascism. It seems like he could or would, but I don't hear him talk about forms of government much. It feels like he's mostly concerned with getting his people to engage in the current political system. But he could easily be a fascist, or that's what like his end goal would be. I'm just not sure. I haven't. I don't talk to him about like what his ideal style of government is. And when it comes up, he says Christian monarchy. I don't know what the fuck that means.
Okay, so what's your one-word answer, if you want to give one?
I would say on that one, probably maybe or yes.
Okay. Will you pick one or no?
Is he a fascist?
Yeah.
I think he would be. I'll say yes on that one. I'll give you that one.
Okay, so he's a fascist, but you don't think he meets the other two criteria.
Yeah.
Have you read
I'm saying yes
Wrist's...
to fascist because he feels very anti-democratic to me. Yeah. So, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Have you read Rose Wrist's quote list?
Not yet. I never read quote lists from anybody for anything. But if somebody wants to give me more substantive stuff, like I'll go through it. But I'm not usually interested in like, here's 50 quotes over the past 6 years.
Okay. A cross-examining question.
Mm-hmm.
If your answer to two of the criteria are no, why did you say he's basically a Nazi? I think the time before last we talked and on Twitter.
I already told you on Twitter for the purposes of fighting with Lance, because it's funny from the tweet, that if Lance believes that he's truly a Nazi, why is the one joke he would pick out the thing that didn't really have anything to do with Jews? That was stupid. And then I would have to know the context of the other conversation where he was like basically a Nazi.
Okay, so your general stance, it sounds like now, is you're saying he just doesn't meet the criteria for Nazi.
To truly be considered like a Nazi or Nazi?
By you, to be considered, not truly, but by you.
I don't think so. Correct.
Okay. Do you see my concern about the vagueness introduced by using that words in different contexts and different ways to describe him? If he, even if he's just a fascist, creating a is he or isn't he narrative, do you see how that, do you see how that helps Trump in a way where then all the people...
No, I see how you think it does, but I disagree with all of that. I think that all of these words are fucked, regardless of my input.
Regardless of your input, do you see how a is he or isn't he a white supremacist narrative helped Trump?
Sure, I can, but I think people calling him a white supremacist helps Trump. I would accuse them more than any of the is he or isn't he people.
No. I'm not saying the is he or isn't he people. I'm saying just the whole narrative around him being confusion around is he a white supremacist. I don't think Trump is a white supremacist, but I think the idea... progressives clinging to the idea that he is actually helps him because it really sucks the air out of any criticism of him.
What does? Say that again?
Progressives clinging to the idea that Trump is a white supremacist helps him because there just isn't a lot of evidence that he is, and he doesn't seem like one.
Okay.
Do you see how that confusion around that helps him?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see, from my perspective, that if Fuentes... even if he's just a fascist, any confusion around whether he is a Nazi, and specifically joking or ironic confusion, do you see how that helps him discredit his critics?
Yeah, it could, yeah.
Okay. So, so I feel like if you're saying he's basically a Nazi, if you're jokingly calling him a Nazi, but then if you're saying you don't think he meets the criteria for Nazi, but he meets.
He's close enough for me to joke about it. Like, I might joke about Hasan being a tanky, but Hasan is absolutely not a tanky in any like strict definition of the word. Neither is Vaush, but I might joke about it sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm concerned about you joking about it with him because you're saying he meets the worst criteria. The worst part about Nazis is that they're fascists.
I disagree.
So like if somebody if somebody wants to kill you, but they're going to vote on it, then like that's not that big of a problem. Somebody engages in conspiracy.
Wait, hold on. What do you mean that's not that big a problem? We were a democracy with slavery for like 100 years. Over 100 years. How do you mean that's not that big of a problem? The Democratic Party of the United States didn't keep it from doing atrocities.
Yeah, it's a big problem, but I don't think it's as big of a problem. I'll put it that way. Okay. I think that engaging in anti-Semitic conspiratorial thinking. I'm saying if somebody.
What I'm saying is that like there could be like
somebody just wanting to kill you, or wanting the government to kill you. Yes, it's a problem if enough people are unified in their beliefs about that, and then they start voting on it, like something like slavery happens. Yeah, that's bad. But most people in the United States have other people they want the government to kill. I think we're just kind of a bloodthirsty nation, and democracy prevents us from doing terrible, terrible things to each other. So that's what I mean when I say that. I'm not trying to downplay the incidence of racial violence in democratic nations. I'm saying that right now, when I think of, well, what's stopping genocide from happening now, democracy is like the first thing that comes to mind. So if I hear somebody has conspiratorial thoughts about Jews or any other race, like, yeah, that's concerning or upsetting, but like a lot of fucking people do. I just don't care that much about that part. I care about it only because of what that person would do if they came to power. But the only reason I care about that is if that person wants to take over the government, which I already know Fuentes does because he fucking tried to do it. He literally tried to overthrow the government, and you're saying like he might be.
Stop making the emotional appeals. Wait, stop making the emotional appeals. It's super cringe. Don't fucking do that to me. That's because then I'm gonna start crying.
The age of the Giga Chad is over, bitch. I will make emotional appeals. This is an emotional topic for me. I care about my country and I love my country. When somebody tries to overthrow the government, I get upset about it. And I wasn't making an emotional appeal, I was making a logical appeal. He literally tried to overthrow the government, which you agreed with the last time we talked. And you're saying he's a fascist in a way where you're like, I'll bite the bullet and say he's probably a fascist.
Okay, and I would say that one of the huge contributing factors for how we ever got to that point was people's inability to engage with the other side, and one of those inabilities is the obsession with using words like Nazi, fascist, racist.
It's my fault that Nick Fuentes tried to overthrow the government.
Partially, yes.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to get away from, because I can do every single part of my job. I'm going to keep talking because you just talked for 20 fucking minutes, okay? I can do every single part of my job that I need to do as effectively as possible without ever calling somebody a Nazi or a racist or whatever the fuck. I don't need to use any of those words to attack all the ideas, to give people an accurate assessment of what other people believe, and to discourage people from following certain bad ideologies. And I would say that by using any of those words, I'm putting myself at a disadvantage, because just like in a movie, when you use a real life song inside the movie, there might be thoughts or feelings that a listener or viewer has that I have completely lost control over by bringing in that word. So I avoid doing that completely. I only attack the ideas. I only go after people on the merit of things. I avoid all of the extra baggage of all the extra bullshit. I don't lose anybody because I'm just throwing around words that may or may not be accurate depending on how they define them. And I can do all of that perfectly. When people like you come in and try to say, you need to call somebody a Nazi, you need to call somebody a fascist, you are contributing to the further divide of these people going, no, he's calling it that, I'm not that, I'm leaving. So you and your types of people that are insistent on using these words as weapons are the ones that are making all of the discourse worse, and you're making it harder for me to do what I do. You're not contributing anything positive to the discourse by insisting that I call somebody a Nazi. If they're a Nazi and he has Nazi beliefs, then I will call out the Nazi beliefs like I have on panels, and people will have those Nazi beliefs, and then we'll move on from there. That's how I prefer to operate, and that's how I've been operating, and it's been working pretty well so far.
Did I insist that you call him a Nazi?
It seems like you insist that I have some solid, rigid definition for it that I maintain through every single context, and I strictly adhere to it in every context.
Is that the same as insisting that you call him a Nazi?
Well, I don't know. I said that I wouldn't call him a Nazi, and it seemed like that upset you, and now you're trying to give me all the reasons why I should call him a Nazi.
No, I never said you should call him a Nazi.
Then what's the problem if I don't want to call him a Nazi? Then what are we even fighting about?
Well, right now we're fighting because you just said I'm insisting that you call him a Nazi, and I want you to
I'm not asking
that
about this particular statement. Let's back up on the macro level. What are we arguing about then? If you're okay with me not calling him a Nazi, what is this conversation about?
I want you to admit that I've never told you that I insist you call him a Nazi. I've never actually said that, right?
You might not have said that, but what you said is that by me not calling him a Nazi, I'm providing cover for him to become potentially the new neo-Nazi dictator in the United States, which I assume is bad.
I haven't said that either. I haven't said that either.
Hold on.
I will say, I think you have my thesis written down, right? By being inconsistent.
Hold on, wait. I'm pulling my audio. I'm curious on this one. Did MrGirl say that
wait, you can't pull your audience. You just told them something. You got to tell them something.
Okay, ask. You said it, so they'll remember. Did MrGirl say that my refusal to use the word Nazi provides cover
you control what the audience thinks, Stephen,
and allows him to become a fascist dictator?
You wrote down my thesis. Just fucking read it.
Which one? Where?
I don't know. I can't see your screen, but I assume...
For the conversation today, it's whether or not my community has 100% control over a word or whatever.
That's what something you said I said that I didn't say, and then I accused you of gaslighting when you did that. So no, I didn't say that either.
Wait,
I've never said you have 100%... Wait, let me be clear. I have at no point ever said you should call him a Nazi if you don't think he's a Nazi. I'm saying I want you to formulate an opinion of Fuentes and formulate a definition of the word Nazi, and then I want you to decide, which you've agreed to do, and you already just did, so I don't know why you're still saying that I'm insisting you call him a Nazi. I want you to decide whether you think he's a Nazi or not, and then I want you to give an answer to that question, which you did. I've never told you should call him a Nazi. You shouldn't call somebody a Nazi if you don't think they're a Nazi.
So now that we've answered that question, what is the rest of our conversation about?
Well, now the conversation's about how you just fucking said.
No, you're a dude. Oh my God. Let's eject this part of the conversation. Eject it. Okay. I was wrong on everything. What are we talking about now that I've said I wouldn't define him as a Nazi?
Are you actually conceding that you were wrong about that?
Yes, I was wrong about everything I just said. So what I'm asking you now is, what is the conversation? That doesn't feel like a real
concession. It feels like you're saying it doesn't matter.
Okay,
You get to say that I said something I didn't say.
Okay.
Then pull your audience to see if they think I said it, because you just said
I was wrong about whatever you just said. Whatever I said, whatever you said I was wrong about, I'm wrong about. 100%. Okay? So now my question is, now that I've given you my definition of Nazi, and I said I don't think America...
I want to respond to something else you said.
What are we talking about? What do we disagree on now?
I don't know. I'm responding to shit you're saying. If you want to steer the conversation in a different direction after that, that's fine. But I do want to respond to the idea that you're lumping me in with, you said, types of people like you. You're kind of people who insist on calling people Nazis. I don't think that's fair. I don't know of any other person that I've ever seen publicly say, I don't think you need to call this person a Nazi. I don't think you need to say that they're not a Nazi. My concern is that you don't have a clear definition of Nazi, and you don't seem to have a clear stance on this person, and I just want you to clarify for your audience what that is, because I think by being vague and dodgy about it, you are creating confusion, which serves that person's destructive
I understand.
goals.
So I've given you a clear definition, and I've given you a clear stance. So are we completely resolved now on the conversation, or is there any other
No, I got another issue. But do you agree that my position that I'm presenting to you is actually kind of unique and not a standard progressive position, or whoever the fuck you're accusing me of being like?
Sure, it can be unique, but the prescriptions that you make at the end of the day end up being almost identical to the ones a lot of progressives have made. But maybe not. Maybe it'll change. Where do we go now from this position? I've given you a clear definition, and I've given you a clear stance.
Again, I've never heard a progressive make the prescription. Come up with your own definition of Nazi. Inform your audience of what that is. Then come up with your own sense of this person. I've never heard a progressive say that. Have you?
Okay. That's
my prescription. That is the prescription.
Okay.
Have you heard?
If that's the prescription, then we're in agreement. Then we're all good on this. I've given you a clear definition. I've given you a clear stance. You have no other issues.
My other issue is the question I was asking you, which I think you evaded by saying that slavery was democratically voted for, which is true and a good point you brought up. However, the question was, do you see why I'm concerned about is he or isn't he a Nazi narrative, which has been going on in your community for a while about Lauren, like jokes about how she's our Nazi queen, and then people kind of get freaked out and saying like, wait a second, but she's actually Nazi, and then people making videos about it, and people saying like, no, she's not that bad, or she's reformed, and then she says something, and everybody's like, oh, Jesus Christ. She talks to Pisco, and then she's like, oh, it's like, oh, she hasn't changed at all. Oh my God, like that whole thing clearly sanitizes her, and I think that it sanitizes Fuentes.
How did every conversation that we've had, the conversation with Pisco, she got destroyed.
Yeah.
Without ever having to call anybody a Nazi. When I went in, so Gideon and Abba said that neither of them would...
I'm talking about before that.
I don't think my refusal to call somebody a Nazi, and you're telling me I shouldn't say it if I don't believe they are, I don't think that's giving them cover. Just find the bad... Why is it so hard to find the bad position and attack the bad positions?
I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm saying that the confusion about is she a Nazi, or is it funny that she's a Nazi because she's not really a Nazi, but she just seems like one, or is she kind of a Nazi? The confusion around that becomes a meme. Becomes funny. Wait, let me finish. It becomes funny in itself, and the same thing happened with Trump.
I don't care. I don't care.
But that's fine if you don't care about what I'm saying. Then let me finish.
I don't care about like the confusion on if somebody is or isn't a Nazi.
Okay, that's why we're having this conversation.
I've already given you my definition. Why do you care? I've given you my definition.
The question is.
Okay, so hold on. Then you were wrong before when you said you just wanted me to give a clear definition and a clear stance, because now you're bothered. You are going back to the business. You're bothered by people being confused if they are or aren't a Nazi. I've given you a clear stance.
I want you to let me ask this question. I've been trying to ask this question for 5 minutes.
If it's taking you 5 minutes to ask a question, that's your problem, okay? But go ahead.
I don't think it is.
It absolutely is.
It's actually because you keep derailing it.
It's absolutely not.
This question's going to take me less than 30 seconds to ask.
Okay.
But every time you say anything, that timer doubles. Okay. I don't remember what the question. Oh yeah. Do you see how it creates confusion when you use the word Nazi jokingly, use it seriously, say he's basically a Nazi, say he's not a Nazi, when you use this like wide variety of definitions and uses and in different contexts? Do you see how all that adds up to the same kind of is he or isn't he a Nazi narrative that I think has helped Trump and has helped Lauren Southern?
No.
Okay.
I think that the only confusion it creates is around those words themselves. And I think the obsession with those words has created confusion where it really matters, which is confusion around their positions. And I think on that subject, my community has more clarity on the actual positions of any of these far-right people I've ever talked to than any other progressive or left-leaning community. And I think that other communities' obsessions with using these words is what leads them to have more confusion about the actual stated positions. And I think that the clarity that you're looking for, the clarity that you are looking for is clarity that does not matter. So for instance, it might be the case that if I go into other communities, there is a huge amount of clarity. If I go into Hasan or Vaush's community, there is a ton of clarity on whether or not Lauren Southern or Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. 100% clarity. And in my community, there is far less clarity on if they are not a Nazi. Now, you might look at that and you might go, wow, that's really good. There's a lot of clarity in Vaush's community and in Hasan's community, and there's none in your community. And you might say, look at that lack of clarity. Look at that confusion. But what I would say is you're looking for clarity in the wrong place. You're looking for clarity on whether or not people have unified around a tribally defined word. And in that sense, other communities do have more clarity than mine. But when it comes to stated positions, there is total obfuscation in both Vaush's subreddit and Hasan's subreddit. They do not know a single fucking policy position of almost any of the people that they criticize. But if you go into my subreddit, they're arguing, is he a Nazi or is he not? Well, he said this, 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 and this, and then he said this, this, and this. They're actually engaging with the content. They're arguing back and forth on facts of the matter. If I go into Vaush's community, there is 100% clarity on whether or not Nick Fuentes is a Nazi. There's about 90% clarity on whether or not I'm far right. But there's 0% clarity on any of our policy positions. So when you ask me, do you see how you're obfuscating? I could guess, sure, maybe I'm obfuscating around the term Nazi or the term fascist, but that's not where I want clarity on, because I don't give a fuck about the tribally defined words. I just want my community to understand what the people think. And in that sense, my community has more clarity than any other left-leaning community on the internet. That's what I would say.
Okay. I agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree the frame that you're introducing by saying it. You're saying that I want you to use the word and that you don't use it, but you do use the word. My problem is the way you use the word. So I'm not saying, like, yeah, you do a good job of elucidating other people's positions. That's true, and you do a good job of making sure that that's important and that that comes to to the forefront of the conversation and that your community understands it. I think that's good. I have no problem with you doing that, and I agree with your criticisms of most left-leaning communities, or most communities in general. That's all good and fine. But the question I'm asking you is, and you said no, is do you see why I'm concerned about your use of the word Nazi? Not that you're using it incorrectly, or not that I want you to use it, it's that you are using it. You're using it seriously to refer to Nick Fuentes sometimes. You're using it ironically sometimes, and then other times you're saying, like today, if we get down to brass tacks, like, no, I don't think he's a Nazi.
Yeah, I can see your problem, but the difference is I don't care about that sort of confusion. It's all like meta-ironic humor.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole argument we're having is you don't care about that, and I'm saying
I thought the argument was whether or not I had a clear definition and a clear stance about what a Nazi is. Now you want to change the argument to, am I contributing to the mudding of the definition of these words? If you want to have that argument, then I'll say, oh, yeah, I guess I probably am when I use them jokingly.
No,
I just don't care.
No, I don't care about the word.
Okay, then let's back up. Tell me what we're talking about right now. I don't know what our disagreement is. What are we talking about right now?
I've accused you of helping Nick Fuentes rise in power by giving him cover, by refusing to have a serious and consistent opinion about whether he's a Nazi.
Okay, and I disagree with the premise. Because I think that him rising to power isn't by people knowing if he is or isn't a Nazi. I think one of the reasons why people like this are able to get up to power.
Wait, I know that's not the premise.
That was your question. You said, I've accused you of helping Fuentes rise to power by giving him cover by not having a serious and consistent opinion of him being a Nazi. Is that what you said, or am I wrong?
Well, let's run through the different possibilities here. What if you thought Nick Fuentes was a Nazi and you said it?
Then you probably would think I'm doing a good job.
By having chicken and waffles with him? Giving him a streaming career potential?
No, you might have other problems past that, but you would prefer me to have called him a Nazi and to be serious about calling him a Nazi than not. You would be happy with that thing. There might be other problems past that.
Well, yeah. Do you see that it would create pretty big problems for you and your career if you said, yes, this person's a Nazi, he wants to become the dictator of the country, and he wants to kill the Jews, and he wants to do all this other horrible shit, and then you're like buddy with him? Like, do you see that would be a problem? I'm not saying that you're not saying this because
people have said this about me forever. I don't care. Of course, this is. Hold on. So you think that I'm trying to sanitize Fuentes because I don't want to hurt my own image?
No, I'm saying, do you see that if you took that stance, that would cause problems for you? Whether you want to cause those problems for yourself or not.
I don't agree with that whatsoever. Absolutely.
You don't think it would create problems for
you
to help the career of a literal Nazi who wants to gas the Jews?
No. I don't think me calling him a Nazi or not is going to influence at all how the public perceives that. There's not a single person that's like...
I'm not saying it would. I'm not what I'm saying. I'm saying, do you think it would create career problems for you if you said that Nick Fuentes is a Nazi and still was buddy with him?
Not any more than it is now of me saying he's not a Nazi and being buddy with him.
Really? You don't think your community would be like, well, if you actually think he literally wants to gas the Jews, then like, why?
Hold on, no. That was a horrible trying to say those two things were the same. Him being a Nazi and him wanting to gas the Jews are two different things. Those are two different statements. If Fuentes was on his stream talking about, like, I want to gash the Jews, when we get into power, we need to kill these blacks and blah, 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 those would be pretty extreme policy positions that I would have a much rougher time.
I thought that was your definition of Nazi. What am I missing?
But I am not... Okay, dude, bro, hold on. You just smuggled so much into that sentence. Holy fuck. So you're saying if I called him a Nazi, insofar as what my definition of Nazi is, implies that he's a totally different person than what he actually is. No, if I thought he was an actual card-carrying neo-Nazi... Hold on, no. If I thought he was an actual
card... If you actually thought he was a Nazi, and you said he was,
then me hanging out with him, would be significantly different. A chicken and waffles thing probably wouldn't happen. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So I'm saying that by your admission now, it would make a pretty big difference if your opinion was that he is a Nazi.
No,
it changes. It changes.
Not if my opinion was that he was a Nazi. That if he was actually a Nazi, you're implying a whole different set of stated beliefs.
No, it doesn't matter. If you say, guys, I think Nick Fuentes wants to gas the Jews, and I'm still going to go out for chicken and waffles with him, that will create career problems for you, whether it's true or not.
Okay, yeah, it probably would. Sure.
Because you're saying, I will have chicken and waffles with somebody who wants to gas the Jews. I will laugh with him while he asks the guy in the street if he's Jewish, knowing full well that if he ever gets into power, he's going to kill that guy and his family.
Sure. Yeah, I would admit that would create career problems. Yeah, probably.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to walk you through how this actually does matter.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if in your definition of Nazi, if he is a Nazi, then you can't really hang out with him like that.
Oh, I don't like the framing. I can, but yeah, it would be bad for my career. I can't do whatever the fuck I want. I shouldn't.
You can. You can do whatever. Yes.
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
Okay. If he's not a Nazi, and you definitively say that he's not a Nazi, and then it comes out later that he is, that's bad for you also.
No, I have no problem with that. There could be things that I've missed. I'm not fully committed on 100% one way or another that, like, I've heard all of his content. There's a lot of content I haven't seen. Like, my opinion is informed of him, of the conversations I have with him, the clips of him that I end up seeing, and then the emails that I get about him. But it's possible that somebody could show me clips. Maybe Rose Wrist will say, like, hey, Steven, like, you need to check this. And there's like a 20-minute rant of him being like, listen, dude, we got to do something with blacks, LGBTs, Jewish people, whatever. Sure. And I'd say that and I'd be like, oof, that's pretty shitty. Like, if I would have known that, I don't know if we would have had, like, fucking lunch together. Okay, that's like way more extreme shit. Yeah.
That's going to make you look dumb to a lot of people if that happens.
Okay, sure.
You can say you don't care, but that's true. Like,
sure, it could. Yeah, sure, it could. Yeah,
okay,
of course. Yeah.
Okay. What will make you look the least dumb is if you didn't have an answer. It's obviously the safest position is to say, well, I've kind of called him a Nazi. I've kind of called him not a Nazi. And I've said I don't know. Like, that's clearly the safest position.
Yeah, it's also the most intellectually honest answer, too. But that's just a coincidence. But go ahead.
It's also the best position for Fuentes. Is for people to not know, for it to be a joke, for people to join his audience and become radicalized that way. Like, oh, I thought we were just joking, but no, the stuff he's saying makes a lot of sense. That's totally possible and totally plausible. And he said that himself. He said that I'm going to hide my anti-Semitism in jokes so that I have plausible deniability. Okay, so I guess I'm comparing it to Trump again because I think it has this effect of making it really fun to be his fan, because you get to trigger the libs. They hate you. It's fun when they hate you, and they hate you like you're a Nazi, but you're not a Nazi. You're just a Trump supporter. You're not actually a white supremacist. You just hate these fucking people who don't understand. And it also provides cover, because then Trump can kind of dog whistle, and he does it on purpose. He gets to dog whistle.
I don't provide cover to Fuentes. Being obsessed over whether or not I call him a Nazi or not, I don't provide cover to Fuentes. You do when you insist on these words like this, but I don't cover. Go ahead.
Okay. So you don't think that progressives calling Trump a white supremacist provides cover for him because it creates confusion? Because there isn't really a basis
cover there isn't that they're calling him a white supremacist. That's part of it. But the greater cover is that they don't actually address his policy positions.
Agreed.
Like, if you were to talk to most people and say Trump, if you were to tell most, here's the thing. If you tell most progressive, sure, I want this to be stated for the record, for the stenographer in the corner taking notes, okay? If you were to tell most progressives, Trump was actually kind of moderate as far as Republicans go. Most of them would say absolutely not. But if you poll progressives, they'd probably say less than 5% would believe that. In terms of his policy positions and like everything that he advocated for legislatively, Trump was actually fairly moderate as far as Republicans go. They'd lose their fucking mind. But that's true in terms of policy position. They say, well, no, he's a white supremacist, racist, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, a lot of Republicans are.
Yeah.
But not race supremacists. But yeah, so I think that the cover is being provided by people that are calling them the word. Yeah. But I don't think that it's just because they're calling them, it's because they're not attacking the policy positions.
Okay.
Yeah, go, okay.
Okay, so let me bring it home by saying you are playing that role by calling him the word when you don't mean it.
Okay.
You are making it into a fun, and it's funny. Your audience definitely thinks it's funny when you call him a Nazi to his face, jokingly. And he thinks it's funny. But the problem is that ambiguity is his only path to growing an audience.
But I think that the
Nazis.
ambiguity is not caused by people just calling him the word. It's the lack of willingness to attack him on his positions.
I'm not saying that it is caused by that. That's a strong
Okay,
man.
well then, in that case, I don't provide that cover because
I'll
I'll attack them on the policy positions.
I don't think it's caused by that, but I think by disambiguating your use of the word Nazi, it would actually have a meaningful impact.
Sure. And I 100% disagree because every other left-leaning community will use that word in unison far more than mine, and every single left-leaning community has far less of an understanding of any of the policy positions of any of the far-right people
but don't you think that their use of that word is flailing and inconsistent?
The other communities?
Yeah,
I do.
It makes
but
no
the
sense
thing I'm more upset about is
if you're going to say Hitler is a Nazi, and then you're going to say Trump is a Nazi, and then you're going to say.
But my issue is less. My issue is less of their use of the word. It's that they won't even go after the policy. They don't even know the policy positions.
That's fine. I know you. Yeah, I agree. This is a good thing about you. I like your content. I think you're good at that. I agree. I agree with you. You're good at getting the policy positions and talking about them. It's very important, and I agree with you. But it's not what we're talking about. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about how your criticisms of how the left uses the word Nazi inconsistently is what I'm saying about you. I'm saying if you're using that word, you're calling somebody a Nazi who you don't really think is a Nazi, or who you think is sort of a Nazi, and somebody who you just said you think is a fascist. Like, fascists kill people.
Yes, and
if he's going to kill people, I don't care
about the emotional argument. I'm talking over you now. If you're talking about the emotional argument, okay. So
wait. The new rule is you interrupt me if I get emotional.
Yeah, if you're like he kills people. Yeah, I understand. I don't care. That is the new rule. Okay. So what I'm saying.
No, that's bullshit. No. The idea that fuck you. The idea that it's upsetting that fascists want to kill people. If I sound emotional when I talk about that, you get to interrupt me.
Democratically elected people kill people too. Okay. Your statement carries no weight.
So you don't think that the murder and false imprisonment of your own civilians is a particular of innocent people is a particular problem with fascism? That's just anybody.
Have you ever heard of the Patriot Act? Have you ever heard of Obama targeting U.S. citizens on foreign soil with drones? Like, this isn't exclusive to fascist regimes.
Are we comparing Obama to fucking Hitler?
No, but look at the dumb fucking game that we're lost in now because you're so obsessed with the word fascist. Attack the ideas. It's always bad to kill your own citizens. Generally speaking, unless it's like the death penalty, right?
Okay, the problem I have with fascism is that when you have a fascist dictator, you are not in a free state, and the dictator tends to kill millions of people just because they feel like it.
Sure, but there's a reason why we talk. There's a reason why we talk about Hitler more than like Mussolini. Okay, so, and there's a reason why even in democratic societies like the United States, we can talk about things like our internment camps or our treatment of Native Americans. We don't have to just talk about fascism and blah, blah, blah. Like, let's just talk about the things themselves. Because you're providing the cover now. You're providing the cover by focusing on fascism.
Is a specific fascism is a specific structure of government that I have a huge problem with.
Then say that. Don't say fascists kill people. Lots of people kill people. Killing people is probably bad if it's murder.
Okay.
When I use words like Nazi, I use them jokingly. I'm not using them as a serious criticism of somebody. But in my community, we don't care. We don't argue. When we say somebody is bad, it's not because they're a Nazi or a fascist. It's because they think that interbreeding between black and white people is degenerate. Or it's because they think that we shouldn't have an age consent, we should fuck 2-year-olds like Amosi. Or it's because they think that we should that we should like sail into the fucking Mediterranean and try to turn around boats that are saving immigrants drowning in the fucking like sea, right? These are why we think people are bad, not because they're a Nazi or fascist. So insofar as that's concerned, I'll play with the word Nazi or fascist. In fact, when I see my community argue about it, I find those are good arguments. When they say something like
just unironically said Nick Fuentes is a fascist. You weren't playing when you said that.
I don't care though, but that's not my problem with him. I can have conversations.
I'm not saying it is. I never said that's your problem.
So I don't care about calling him I'm not when I'm arguing with him, I'm not going to say like, Nick Fuentes, you're a fascist and that's so bad. I'll just attack the policies.
I'm not saying you should say that.
Okay, then I'll joke about it too. I'll joke about Nazi and I'll joke about fascist because I don't care about I don't care about these words.
I know. That's the thing I'm giving you pushback.
Sure, and I don't care. And I'm telling you that my community has more clarity.
So if you don't care about my pushback, that's fine.
It's not that I don't care about your pushback, it's that I don't care how those words are used. You can give me pushback about it, but you haven't convinced me that there's an essential reason why I should guard.
How can I convince you? You're not listening to me.
I am. You just haven't given a single compelling argument.
You're really MrGirling me right now. You're not listening to anything I'm saying.
Max, the people on your side have killed people, okay? We suffered almost $2 billion in property damage from people wielding words like yours in the name of BLM. Okay, over 30 people died in those protests. They died. There are cities that are still burnt to the ground by people saying that Blue Lives Matter flag holders are fascists and Nazis. Okay? There are entire cities burned to the ground. Kenosha happened after people like you wanted to use words like white supremacists to describe police systems instead of attacking the actual problems. So in my community, I try to push back against that because I don't want to see that kind of violence happen in the future.
Don't you think white supremacist is a little vague to apply to an entire police system?
Sure is. But people like you argue, or not people like you, but people that make similar arguments about using these words seem to all like have these similar types of arguments. So I abandon words like...
It's a bit of a little switcheroo straw man here to say that me saying that you should have a definition of a word and then use the word according to your own definition is somehow the same as me using the word white supremacist to refer to anything I don't like.
We already solved that part of the argument.
Lefty.
We solved that part of it.
Why are you bringing it up?
I have it because you still have a problem, even though you said you wouldn't. I said...
But you're straw manning me.
I said, here's my definition.
You won't even listen to my problem.
Here's my... Okay, let's macro zoom out again. Boom. What is the problem? What are we talking about? Because you asked me for a clear definition, a clear stance, and I gave it to you. But it seems like you still have a problem. Now, what is the problem?
I do.
Okay.
I think that was good that you did that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, what is the, let me write it down. What is the problem right now?
I think by jokingly using a word like Nazi to refer to somebody who you believe is actually a fascist and actually has political aspirations and whose career you are helping, you make the idea that Fuentes is a Nazi into a funny, subversive joke.
Okay.
You are likening me to the woke left, the BLM rioters. You're comparing me to people who call the police white supremacists, and you're strawmanning me super hard in the process of doing that. And I think that's really unfair. I think that in the process of joking around like this, you are providing the exact ironic cover that Fuentes needs in order to advance his fascistic goals.
Okay. I think by jokingly using a word like Nazi to refer to somebody who you believe is a fascist and has political aspirations, career building, you make the idea that Fuentes is a Nazi into a fun, funny, subversive joke. I don't care if my audience thinks it's funny or not funny to call Fuentes a Nazi. What I do care about is if they know his positions, and if they like or dislike his positions. So if you think that
I started the conversation with you, this is
I just
why
wrote down your entire fucking thing, and I'm going to respond to more than one fucking sentence of it. Okay.
Okay.
So I understand that you don't like the idea that my community uses the word Nazi as a joke or whatever. I don't care. That word is already a joke because of external context to my community that I have no control over, or little control over within the boundaries of my community. So I will joke with that word. I think it's funny. I'll joke with all of these words, and I think they're funny. And you are saying that I am likening you to the woke left. Okay, you said that, the BLM rioters, and then you said you're comparing me to people who call the police white supremacists. I'm comparing the outcomes of your prescriptions, trying to insist that I'm rigid on the definitions of these words. I think has caused people to fixate on these definitions more than the policies, and the policies and the actual beliefs are more important than the broad labels that we paint people with. And in the final part, you said that I think that in the process of joking around like this, you are providing the exact ironic cover that Fuentes needs in order to advance his fascistic goals. That is not the type of ironic cover that Fuentes needs. I disagree with that. He needs ironic cover around his policy positions. And when we're talking policy, I will be absolutely crystal clear in every single conversation I have had and will have with him. And if you go back and look, including in things like panels with Abba and Gideon and other black people, other black creators, I was never, ever, ever in that panel saying, aren't you a Nazi? Aren't you a fascist? Instead, I was saying, didn't you say that black and white people breeding together was degenerate? Don't you believe that black people actually less like you? And I think that type of argument is more important than trying to hold them to whether or not he is or is not a Nazi or a fascist. I do not care. It makes for good meme materials and good jokes, And I would much rather focus on the policies, and whatever cover Nick needs to advance his career as a Nazi or a fascist does not lie in the definition of those terms. It lies in the obfuscation of his policy positions, which is usually done by way of adhering to strict definitions of Nazi or fascist, because the stricter the definition, the easier it is to dance around.
Easier than a loose definition?
Yes.
Easier than a meme definition?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that you should have called him a Nazi in that panel. I'm not saying that. I don't think you should stop talking about his positions. I'm not saying that. I don't think that the point I'm making is trying to replace the point you're making. I think some of what you're doing is good work. I think it's good work to elucidate his positions and to nail him down on them and to talk about them and to argue with them if you disagree with them. I think that's good. At no point have I said you shouldn't do that or that you should replace it with something else. All I'm saying, I mean, you know what I'm saying. I just think by using the word jokingly and not jokingly, saying he's a Nazi, saying he's not a Nazi, especially if you think he's actually a fascist, is providing cover, and it's the exact same cover that he wants. I think he wants people joking about whether he's a Nazi.
Okay. All right. I think we've hit bedrock. Is there any other part of this you want to explore or say, or any other tangential line earlier that you'd like to visit?
Do you think Fuentes wants to enslave women?
I'm going to have to ask what you mean by enslave.
Under your definition.
Absolutely not.
Do you think Fuentes wants to cripple the freedom of women and make them second-class citizens?
Under my definition, I would say yeah, since I'm a big liberal and he has a stricter religious, theological, Catholic sense of what the role of a woman and a man is. Yeah, I would say yeah. Wouldn't call it slavery, but yeah, I don't like traditional religious roles for women in households, unless they opt to do it. And I think that he would probably want to find ways to culturally enforce that, kind of like a fascist.
You don't think he wants to legal? I believe he said he wants something like the Taliban. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but it wouldn't surprise me. But my guess is if you would push him on a realistic, he'd probably say, oh, okay, yeah, I probably wouldn't make it a law, but there should be really, really harsh cultural punishments and stigmas for people that don't follow these rules, and maybe incentives for people that do. He would want to effectively enforce it societally, if not through government action, probably.
If he doesn't want to make it a law, why wouldn't he say, I want something like the Christian South in the 60s or 50s or something? Why would he say the Taliban?
I don't know how the Taliban enforce their rules. So I can't speak to that. And I would have to see the context of his conversation. If you were to tell me, here's a clip he says it, I
assume they're pretty harsh.
Well, but are they like extra, like, so for instance, there are extra rules that churches have over states, right? If I do a sin in the Catholic Church and then I go to perform the sacrament of confession and I confess my sins, there's going to be an extra punishment that goes along with that, part of my penance. I might have to say the rosary a certain number of times. I might have to perform public service. So insofar as that's like an extra set of punishments for a sin that would be extrajudicial. It wouldn't be part of the government, kind of like Sharia law in a way. So if he's talking about stuff like that, sure. But he might actually say, yeah, there should be the fucking religious police or actual police that beat you if you show too much leg or something. He might say either one. I don't know.
My understanding is this Taliban operates under Sharia law. That is the law. I don't think it's like...
Sure, they might. I just
separate from the law. That's the only law.
I don't know why you're. If you show me the right clips, and I don't know when. I haven't had an in-depth conversation with Nick or seen an in-depth clip about how he wants to treat women in his ideal society. I'm not sure. I don't know 100%.
Okay, I'm a little disturbed by my own focus on the racial aspect, and not just pointing out that he is pretty openly interested in. I would call it enslaving women, at least making them second-class citizens.
Well, I mean, from a liberal perspective, Christian people would treat women in a way as second-class citizens. But within the framework of the Christian context...
But I'm talking about the law. I'm saying legally, they would have fewer legal rights.
Yeah, probably. I would imagine. I don't know if I've heard him do that repeal the 19th shit, or they can't own property. But it wouldn't surprise me if he believed that. I'm not sure.
I'm concerned about feminism being too soy to have this be a major sticking point that
Fuentes absolutely would not be feminist. Of course not.
No. I'm saying that feminism being too soy in your and maybe my community too, that it allows him to say things like, if he said, I want black people to not have the same right, I want something like this, like, slavery, then there'd be a big uproar. But if he says I want something like the Taliban, like, oh, well, they're just women. It feels
Hold on 1 second. We had a huge argument over this in regards to his viewing Lauren Southern's documentary. And it was over whether or not he thought that women could participate in politics. And we had a huge argument over that, where I very adamantly defended the point that him being so detrimental to women, and I think we even had a second panel conversation about this, him being so opposed to women joining his movement or being politically part of that movement, I think was a detriment to his movement. So no, that was a big conversation.
That's not really soy. I'm talking about the soy position of like, or feminine. You know, it's not really feminist to say your movement would be bigger. You'd gain more power.
I'm just saying that it wasn't like he said that and I was like, oh, true, actually, yeah, fuck women, ha ha, like get them out of here. There was
I know, but that pushback is different from what, like, you can't do that to women.
Okay, what kind of pushback are you looking for? What do you mean? Because you made it sound like he could say that, and I would just jokingly agree because we don't care.
Moral pushback. That's wrong.
No, why would I ever give moral pushback on anything to somebody with a different set of morals than me? He's right morally from within the Christian framework. I have to appeal on some other basis or some other foundation.
I think I guess this gets to part of what I'm concerned about is your reluctance to give moral feedback and your audience's not wanting you to give moral feedback.
It's not effective. We're coming from totally different moral foundations. I have to connect with him in some way that makes our two systems commensurate. He wants to be politically effective. I know that, so I can hit him on that point. He doesn't give a fuck about my morals. I'm a fucking polyamorous, drug-doing, like twice married fucking dude in Miami.
I'm not talking about affecting his moral. I'm not talking about affecting
I'm trying to affect his. I want to affect his audience as well. They're not going to care about my morals. I'm literally a fucking degenerate.
But I want you to affect your audience.
My audience already agrees that women should be able to vote and have property. I don't need to convince my audience.
I know, but the way you push that is by saying it's retarded or stupid or like you're a dipshit if you don't believe that. But that's not really moral pushback. It's like, yeah, you can call people stupid and you're good at it and you're good at making them look stupid or proving that they actually are stupid.
I'm not calling them stupid. What I'm trying to do is when I have an argument with somebody else and I'm trying to be the persuader, okay? I have the harder job of I need to be able to step within their moral framework and navigate within that framework to produce an outcome that would be good within my moral framework, assuming we share no common morality. That's my goal.
Do we agree that there's a trade-off then where the more rhetorically effective you're being to the person you're talking to, the less you can take a moral stance against what they're saying?
I guess, but I would never
I think
take
that kind of gets...
Sure, but when I'm being persuasive rhetorically, I'm never, ever, ever invoking my own morality. That's begging the question. If he believed my morality, we would already be in full agreement.
I know. I think that's what a lot of this whole argument has been about, is me saying that I want you to invoke your own morality.
Okay, then you should have said that. I would have said I'm never going to do that ever, and then we could have just end the conversation right there. I'll never do that. Why would I ever invoke my own morality? If I do that, if we agree morally with each other, and I'm not going to move him on any ethics positions ever. Because
he's on a moral crusade, and he is constantly invoking his own morality. And I think that it becomes a kind of like emotionally captivating when somebody can both be the bullet-biting Giga Chad who says, I want the Taliban. You know, I want whatever the Taliban has. Like, it's funny that he says that, and people like it. People like watching him say outrageous shit. Like, it's like Andrew Tate. Like,
no. Him invoking his own morality hurts his ability to persuade my audience. If he wants to invoke his morality, that's fine. If he's going to sit here and say shit like, oh, well, I think that women are second class, blah, blah, blah. No one in my audience. If he wants to convince my audience, he would need to do what I do. And he needs to come up and say, listen, wouldn't society just be easier in this way and this way if women just didn't have to worry about voting, if they didn't have all the stresses of modern life? We can look at self-reported happiness things and say that as women enter the forest, right? Hold on. If he wants to appeal to my audience, he's going to do what I'm doing. He can't just invoke his morality and my audience goes, oh my God, you know what, dude? Damn, Catholic monarchy shit actually sounds really good. My audience isn't on that level morally to agree with him. They're totally different.
I think I understand what you're saying. I'm saying that I think that you are super equipped with the way that you conduct yourself to push back logically, but you're unwilling to take a moral stance. Like you're saying, you will not provide moral condemnation except in like rare circumstances. And you're even like making fun of me for doing it.
Yeah, because it's not, because that wouldn't be part of being persuasive.
Yes, and what I'm saying is, for the sake of being ultra persuasive, you have created a hole in your defense.
It's not a hole.
You will not provide moral push. Well, I view it as a whole. Okay, do you agree that I think it's a problem you don't provide moral pushback?
Yeah, you can think it's a problem, sure.
Okay. Do you agree that if I think that, then obviously it makes sense for me to give you this feedback that, yeah, you're a great
I didn't say
logician.
It doesn't make sense for you to give me feedback. Of course it makes sense for you to give me feedback if you believe this is true. I just don't believe this is true. I don't think there is a hole here. I think that by me trying to engage in moral arguments, I'm automatically losing. That's a losing position rhetorically.
Yes, exactly. Losing position rhetorically. That's what I'm talking about. You have such an aversion to that. But I'm saying that sometimes, for the sake of the greater good, or the sake of staking out your position, the sake of messaging to people who are watching, not necessarily the person that you're talking to directly, I think that I'm providing moral pushback right now, and obviously it doesn't resonate with you much, but I think you have a moral imperative to stake out a moral position when you're talking to somebody who wants to commit atrocities, or who you think might want to commit atrocities.
So it's worth it for me to stake out a moral position if it means that more of my fans will become Nazis. That's what you're saying, because that's what is happening. That's what would happen in your world.
I don't think so.
Okay, you're wrong. So rhetoric,
no, you're wrong,
is the art of being persuasive, trying to persuade somebody. Speaking from within, well, hopefully to whatever, it depends on what we're arguing about, to my side of the argument.
Yes. The less you are willing to moralize, the less clear it is what your side even is.
When I moralize, I'm putting a stake that is 5 million miles away from them.
Yes.
I can't pull them to that side. That's not my goal.
Agreed. I agree.
And not only that, when I'm starting all the way over there, I'm giving them the opportunity to start way closer to my audience. I don't want them to have that opportunity. I want to work within their moral framework to be persuasive on that end, rather than stake out really strong claims on my end and just say, no, that's wrong. No, I don't agree with that morally. That's wrong. And they're saying, oh, black crime rates all across the world. I mean, like, diversity causes all these issues. I mean, look at these homogenous. I don't want to be fighting on that. Now I've fucking lost, because I'm saying, like, no, dude, diversity is our greatest strength. It would actually be way more moral for us to help illegal immigrants. He's going, well, illegal immigrants stealing jobs, labor force participation is actually pretty low right now.
I'm not saying you should moralize about that. I'm fine.
No, hold on. I'm telling you that if I stake out a moral position that is miles away from anybody over there that I could persuade, the only people that are listening to the arguments I'm making past that point are the people that already agree with me. And I've lost the ability to contact any of his audience. But if he's wanting to rhetorically stake a stronger position, now I'm fighting an argument where all I'm trying to do is preach to my audience and then bleed off whoever's not the most loyal to me to him. Why would I make more Nazis to have a stronger moral principled like argument? Why would I do that?
Well, you wouldn't. I'm arguing that that's not what happened. So let me push back. In your analogy, you're talking about where he is and the stake being 5 million miles away and your audience being somewhere in the middle, right? I believe that in the case of Nazism or fascism, he is so far out there that I think you could actually put down a moral stake and it would be pretty close to where your audience already is. And it would have, I think, a sobering effect to see that the guy... See, like, I talk about trans people and Black Lives Matter and Dr. K, and I'm making all these, impassioned emotional appeals, and I'm starting to blow. Like, people can only watch me cry so many times before they start to say, like, oh, like he's just a bitch. He's just emotional, especially when I'm talking to you, because you don't do that. However, I think there's a break glass an emergency thing happening here where, and this is why I'm saying this to you, I think you should take a moral stance here. And I don't think it might make you less rhetorically effective with Fuentes himself, but I think it has other effects that are really important for you to say, like, guys, this is wrong. I think this is wrong.
No, there is no sobering effect. It will make me, I'm going to use the trigger statement, it will make me look soy. If I come into his community and I go, guys, that's wrong, then everybody there just sees me as every single far left progressive ever.
I'm not worried about his community. I'm worried about yours.
Okay, my community is not going to be persuaded by his moral arguments.
if somebody's running into the Capitol building with a gun, is it soy to say that's wrong? Don't do it?
The problem is that by me saying that, my audience already obviously thinks that's wrong. People in the middle even think that's wrong. His audience.
Answer this.
What? His audience thinks that's right.
Is it wrong? Is it soy? If I'm standing outside the Capitol, I see somebody going with a gun, and I say, hey, listen, with tears in my eyes, I love this country. Don't do this. Is that wrong?
Yes.
Or is it soy?
That's soy. Yeah, it's soy. Because they're running into the Capitol building for the same reason you don't want them to run into it. That's the issue. It's a difference of... There are so many differences that have to be addressed to get to that point. That's the problem.
I'm not... Okay. I think that you'd be standing outside the Capitol talking at 500 words per second about how they're retarded dipshits for going in. But I think it's... At a certain point, I think you need to make the... if not impassioned emotional appeal, a moral stance of like, I don't believe this. I don't think this is right. I think this is wrong. Okay. And I think Fuentes is that.
Okay. I
think your audience needs to hear that from you.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll ask you if you think you can do it. If you want, we can try any argument you want, and I will play any side of this. And we can do moral versus pragmatic stances, and I can show you the difference in how those conversations go. Because the ones where I stake out a moral claim are going to be fucking disastrous. But the one where I fight pragmatically is going to go way better. And I can destroy them within their own framework, which is convincing to the people that are listening to them.
The implication is that if you can make a pragmatic winning argument for an atrocity, then it's okay. And you even bit this bullet. You said, well, if he beats me in my arguments, I hope my audience goes and marches in the Fourth Reich.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that your unwillingness to appear soy is a big weakness when you're going up against somebody like Fuentes. I think your audience needs to hear you say, even if I lose, that just means I lost. If I lose this argument, that's because I sucked. That doesn't mean I'm wrong.
That can be from my personal conversations with my stream, but it's not going to be when I'm arguing with someone else.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying you need to say it when you're arguing with him or as an argumentation tactic. I'm just saying broadly, it doesn't. I feel like there's a hole in your messaging around Fuentes. That's just like.
My audience constantly is posting, like, just so you know, this is what he said. I'm pretty sure Rose Chris literally made that doc because he's part of my audience. Like, when people make sure that we remember what Fuentes is, guys, like, my audience is already doing all this
Rose
shit.
Wrist is trying to fill in for you because I believe he sees a gap in your messaging around this. I think Rose Wrist feels like you won't just say, like, hey, this is wrong. I'm against this.
Because my community already knows my positions on all of these things. Nobody in my community is like, damn, is Destiny actually for getting rid of all gay people? Or fuck, does Destiny actually think that Jews are actually controlling the fucking
Yeah, but there's
government?
a difference between knowing what you think is right and wrong and you actually being willing to say it.
I'm willing to say it. I'm just not going to do it in a moral way in an argument with somebody different with a different set of morals. Again, if you want, we can do a sample conversation of any topic, and we can run down the difference.
No, I know you're going to win. That's the point is that you'd have to sacrifice some rhetorical effectiveness in the argument.
When you say sacrifice rhetorical effectiveness, you're saying you're going to have to make some Nazis to have a better moment on stream where you can look principled. I don't agree with that. That's what Hasan does.
I don't agree with it. I think
that's what you're saying. No. When you're saying sacrifice rhetorical effectiveness, rhetoric is the art of persuasion. If I'm sacrificing persuasion, by definition, I'm losing some of the audience. What does it mean to be less persuasive?
No, you're not.
Okay, I don't know what you think persuasion means. What do you think persuasion means? We have to go more fundamental. What does it mean to be persuasive?
Okay. Yes. In the frame, and looking at the debate from a purely logistical lens or logical lens, who wins the debate? Okay. Persuasiveness is you're trying to get the person you're talking to or the people who are listening to agree with you.
Yes.
Okay.
So if there's 1,000 people, a 50% persuasive argument might convince 500, 55% might convince...
I get what you're saying, but I feel like you're not... what you're convincing them to can be a emotional point, a moral point, or a logical point, or is usually some combination of all of the above.
I can't argue somebody into a different morality. That is impossible. Unless I'm having
I don't think you can argue Fuentes into a different morality.
I can't argue his audience. That is
people's morality. See, I think that you just see yourself in some way as like not like as effective as you actually are. I think you have a lot more sway over the morality of your audience and anybody who listens to you than you think.
We just fundamentally disagree on that. I don't think so.
Okay, sure, we do, but I don't think Trump is good at debating in the way you debate. He doesn't even make points, but he still wins.
He's incredibly rhetorically effective, so he's good at debating insofar as like persuading the audience, for sure.
Yeah. But he also, at the end of the day, you don't know what Trump believes.
Okay.
Like his own audience doesn't know what he believes.
Sure.
I don't think anybody really knows what he believes. Okay. That comes at a cost. And I'm saying that I think that there's an imperative for you to let your audience know,
which I do,
what you believe
within
in
my
a soy way.
With my stream,
I think the only way to fight Fuentes
with my
is
stream,
to be soy.
I can't. No, I think that's wrong.
I know.
And if we ran any sample argument, I could demonstrate it in the argument that it would be wrong and ineffective. Or I could just speak about my last argument about the women thing. So if he wants to argue, I go, I think that women should be part of it because morally, like, we're all human, dude. Like, all of us are human. Women can do things like men can. Like, we should all treat each other equally. Like, I think that, like, yeah, like, that's, like, he would see that, oh, cool, totally inconsistent morals. And he would just preach to his moral side. He'd say, well, actually, I think we are equal in terms of rights, but we're not equal in terms of capabilities. And equal rights, it doesn't mean equality under the law or equality of outcome, right? The woman, it has more control over the household than the man does, and the man has more control in the real world. One of these things isn't better than the others. It's just two sides of the same coin. Just because they're not exactly...
Why should women be free?
Do you want me to answer as him or as me?
Oh, I'm saying, don't you think that there needs to be somebody who makes the emotional and moral stance of just like...
Sure, the video essayist can do that. That's not a good argument, dog. We've been saying that shit for fucking years. Because it's right? Because diversity is our greatest strength? Because racism is wrong? That shit doesn't fucking work if somebody is fundamentally morally opposed to you. Sorry, I'm not trying to use a straw man voice. But I just don't think that like the moral arguments are very effective. Like, you have to hit them.
They're not effective on their own, but I do think we still need people saying racism is wrong. Yeah. It's
okay,
not wrong because it's illogical. Because there are times where it is logical, but still wrong.
The problem is people are giving logical reasons to be racist, and the other side is just screaming like, no, 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 it's morally wrong. That's not enough. That's not good enough.
I think it's important for my audience to know that even if you can provide a waterproof or airtight case about why genocide is good logically, or why racism is good, or racial profiling, or why not letting women have jobs is good. Like if some IQ test comes out or some aptitude test, and it just turns out that like women shouldn't be in politics. You know, I can prove to you mathematically women shouldn't be in politics. We've done every single test. Genetically, women shouldn't be in politics. I'm never going to say women shouldn't be allowed to be elected to office.
I don't agree holding moral positions like that will ignore everything downstream from there. That's not how I fight my battles, and I don't even believe that to be the case.
There is nothing downstream from it. That's what I'm saying. It's a bedrock belief.
If you literally believe that women are not fit for politics, then maybe they shouldn't be in politics. That would be the next logical step. It wouldn't be.
I understand that. That's what I'm arguing against. I'm saying even if it's the next logical step, I still think it's wrong, and I don't want it in my society.
Okay. Your position is destructive and corrosive to society. And anybody that is educated on these topics, and they will because their audience is talking about it, will see what you're saying as leading to the destruction of society. I can give you a really good example of this. People on the far right believe in race realism. They think that differences in IQ between people can be accounted for by the races. They're familiar with people like Jordan Peterson and his speech about how in the military, they have a test. You take an IQ test, and if your IQ is below, it's either 75 or 85, you are worthless to the army. They can't find a single job for you to do, not even one job. And this is something that we have to deal with. And they'll go, I remember that from Jordan Peterson. Then they'll say, I remember the bell curve. I remember Charles Murray. When Charles Murray's talking about the bell curve, when he's talked to Sam Harris about it, he's not talking about a hatred for black people. He's saying that if some people in society are so dumb and if some races are so far behind, we should look at that as a moment of compassion. We need to help these people. Black people are too stupid to be engineers or scientists or blah, 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 blah. So we need to give them welfare. We need to do that, right? And now if they go to a race realist, a far-right political leader, he'll say, okay, well, we know what Jordan Peterson says to be true is true. And we know that what Charles Murray in the bell curve says to be true is true. We know that other people that have talked about this is true. Well, now we need to figure out how do we want to build our society? Well, do we really want minorities in it that we know biologically are not only going to be a drag on our society from a welfare perspective, but they're going to be a drag on our descendants by bringing them down with their tainted genes that are going to cause them to be like less politically and less intellectually and less career and economically effective as us?
Yeah,
absolutely. No. And then you're going to go at the end, you're going to go, even if that's all true, yeah, we should accept that anchor. And all of them are going to look at you. No, and then you've lost. You can do what you want to do. That's fine. Your position initially. I
don't think I have lost.
No, you anybody that's listening is going to go, this guy's delusional.
Here's what I would say.
I don't want to ruin my country because this guy like doesn't care about any of these things. You have to fight them on those grounds.
I think you have to fight them on moral grounds. I think you have to say something like, okay, so you can push a button, and every time you push it, you kill the dumbest 1% of society. Mm-hmm. So how many times would you push it? Why? And what's your justification for that? What's your justification for when you stop pushing it?
I think we've hit bedrock. Or I would be curious. You should debate.
I don't think so. I just think you don't. I think you are. I think you have a severe aversion to appearing soy.
No, you're dead wrong. I have no problem appearing soy. It's not about appearing soy. I know that you're obsessed because this is the current framework you're working out of. And I got some Wittgenstein emails and I'm obsessed and I'm working on that. But it's not about the soy shit. It's that I don't want to utter a phrase that makes it seem like everything I'm talking about is incommensurate with everything you believe. When I'm speaking to Fuentes about women, I'm talking to them for them. If anything, in a way, I'm giving them advice to be successful. I'm actually helping. I'm telling Fuentes, listen, dog, if you had women are this is the argument today, women are the most politically active and engaged gender in the United States. Women do more on the ground politics than men do. You've got people like Lauren Southern or other women, Faith Goldie or fucking Laura Bloomer, whatever the fucking name is. You've got these women that are engaged politically. You want them in your movement. And when I make arguments like that, people in his movement don't go, oh, here's Soy Destiny arguing for fucking women again because he thinks it's right. They say, okay, sure. Maybe there are some effective women. I still don't like them, but okay, fine. So at the end of the day, maybe I don't even pull any of them to my side, but I actually help moderate the movement a bit. Some people, and I've gotten emails from people in that movement. I think I had even a caller today who was like, I'm still pretty conservative, but like I feel like a little bit okay on some of these social issues.
I understand you're good at what you do. I know that. I'm not saying that what the parts
I don't want to do. Then other people can do the moral shit. I don't think it's effective at turning heads or turning minds.
Well, that's why I'm here, man. That's why I'm fucking jumping.
No, you're not here to do that. You're here to tell me to do that. If you wanted to just say like I think morally, but we can have a discussion on morals.
Telling you to do it is also me doing it. One of us needs to do it.
You could just come on and say, I want to talk to you about like why do you think women should be involved in politics? Why do you think women should be inside, even if they're not 100% the same physically? We could have that discussion. It'd be an interesting discussion. But you're here telling me that I need to change my approach, and then telling me that I'm not equipped to do it.
I do think you need to change your approach. So my response to race realism is that we can have the conversation about it. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care. Even if the racists are right.
But you have to care.
I don't care. No, I'm telling you, I actually.
Then you hate black people. You hate black people.
Let me explain this to you.
You can explain it, but you hate black people. Go ahead.
Let me. You went for a while. Let me explain this to you.
Go for it.
I actually don't care. I'm not just saying I don't care because I'm a liberal. Okay. I'm not saying I don't care because I think diversity is our greatest strength. Mm-hmm. I actually don't care. I don't want to live in a society that gives less rights to its dumbest 10% of people. And I sure as fuck don't want to live in a society that says that, oh, this group of people, because of how they look, you can tell who they are from looking at them, and then from that, there's a loose correlation with some other difference. And so therefore, even if that's true, which I don't believe it is, even if it were true, I still wouldn't care. I don't care. The freedom of different colors and genders of people is more important to me than any possible logical counter argument you could make. That's not true in the military. The job of the military is to transport things around the world and kill people.
What about school? What about how do you feel about affirmative action?
I'm against it.
Why? If you want schools to be more colorful, or you wouldn't care if all schools were Asian and white people? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I don't want schools to be more colorful. I just don't want people based on their color to have different rights.
Okay, then what is your perspective on you don't care about race? Where does that even apply to anything? What policy or what is even influencing?
I believe that is a reverse engineered aversion to people who look different from you, and then taking every test and measure you can find to find the sloppiest, loosest correlation you can possibly make to explain your own racist behavior and the shitty outcomes that it brings.
No,
about.
I'm asking what is you being not racist?
Immoral frame, so the pushback against it is like it may well be very logically sound, but it's wrong. And I don't want it because it's wrong. When I look in the mirror, I look at myself and I ask myself, why is it wrong? Why would it be wrong to keep women out of politics? Yeah, there's practical arguments you can make, but I want everybody to know that underneath the practical arguments, it's just wrong.
Okay.
I just don't want it.
I know you think this.
I don't like it.
Okay, gotcha.
I think it's important to add that. I feel like you're risking your audience turning into Nazis when you imply the only reason I'm not a Nazi is because it's highly illogical.
Okay, that's my position. If it was logical to be a Nazi, I would be a Nazi. I don't think it's logical to be a Nazi.
And because I wouldn't.
Okay, then your system sucks.
No, your system does not have to be based on logic.
Okay. If it was the case that, I guess it's weird, we'll say you're kicked out of the club. If it was the case that Jewish people were conspiring in a way to destroy white people across the Western nations, the Kalergi plan is real, there's white replacement is actually happening, the fluoride in the water is targeting white ball sacks. If this was all true, would you still be like, oh, that's okay, I'm not going to be a Nazi, I think it's fine? If logic compelled you to do so,
like that doesn't lead to Nazi. It doesn't, like, if people are plotting against you, then you need to stop them. But I don't think you stop them by rounding them up and killing them. Like, no, I'm against doing that. I'm against killing murder.
What if it's
somebody raped
life or
and
death?
murdered my whole family, I would still be against.
Boring. What if
we don't know? It's not. But don't, let me finish. I'm against Nazism because I think killing people is wrong, and I think fascism is wrong.
Do you think killing people in self-defense is wrong? Because that's the justification for Christchurch, for Great Replacement stuff, for foreign invaders.
Yes.
You think killing people in self-defense is wrong?
That's a big stretch to call that self-defense. Yes.
We can get there. We can build it out to it. You can call it a big stretch now, but we can get there.
Yeah, at some point, okay, do you believe me that if somebody was going to hit me in the head with a baseball bat on the street, I would shoot them? Like,
sure. What if that somebody is an MS-13 illegal person that a Jewish fucking backed senator like pushed to legalize to bring into this country? Do you think you can defend yourself against the MS-13 person? And at some point, if you believe in the Jewish
hit me in the head with a baseball bat?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And then at some point, do you think
except Shaylin?
What if it was the case that the people that were brought in and are continued to be brought in are changing your electorate and are being pushed by shady money that's all tied to Jewish people and are being pushed for the express purpose of getting rid of people like you, pretend you're white and not Jewish, but getting rid of people like you in the country. Hold on, all I'm trying to say is that you can build out
no, you can't. Okay. There's a line that I will just draw, and the line is already drawn. No, wait, okay. Stop. We have a law in every state that states when you can shoot somebody, and I think they're all totally reasonable. Okay. You can bring up any law in any state, and I'll say that's the line I would draw. I think we've done a great job of drawing self-defense.
The revolution of the United States was against the law.
True.
That's not an argument against it, right? The problem is that at some point...
It is. It actually is.
Okay. There were laws against the protest that Martin Luther King did. That's not an argument against it. At some point when we're talking about fighting the system...
Wait, I didn't say it's not an argument against it. I said if you're going to ask me a bunch of fucking questions, I can just tell you right now, look up whatever the law is in Oregon, and I'll say that's the line.
Okay. All the positions
if I shoot somebody and I get convicted of murder, then I will... If the jury,
I understand. All of the positions that you committed yourself to are the exact ones that people on the other side... Like, if I were to open any alt-right chat, They would be typing, this guy is, well, actually, because you're Jews, they're saying, you're trying to encourage all of us to commit suicide for the cause. You're like the white person that wants to die so that BBCs and brown people and Muslims can come into our country and take over. You're suicidal and you're trying to destroy your own race. That's what you've committed yourself to. And not only have you committed yourself to that out of potential ignorance, you're saying even if you knew it led to certain self-suicide of your race, you would still commit yourself to it. That is the exact line of thinking that Nazis or neo-Nazis or alt-righters will use to fight against people that advocate for that. They'll say, "Oh, look, the white woke liberal is self-destructive."
If I had 2 buttons in front of me, and one said, "Kill 999 Jews," and the other said, "Kill 909." Let's say one says kill 1,000 Jews, and one says kill 999 white people.
Okay.
Wait, no, I said it backwards. 1,000 white people. Not you get what I'm saying. I don't care. I don't care about the existence of my race. If I had to choose between killing 999 Jews and killing 1,000 white people, I would kill Jews.
Okay. There are some people that really do care about the existence of their race.
I know.
I want to be able to talk to those people.
That's fine, but you're bouncing all over the fucking place, man.
I'm not.
Everything you're saying is changing the subject.
Okay, my bad.
I'm saying I think there is a place for moralizing and having a moral stance in these conversations, and you're just trying to come up with something to confuse me. You're like, whoa, the MS-13 baseball bat thing, where the fuck did that conversation go? Just like went out the window.
The point of
let's go back to it.
Okay,
yes,
sure. Let's go back to it. The point of the conversation
okay.
was, let's say there's a group of politicians that are funded by Jewish money, and the goal of those politicians is to make it so that more people come into the country that are non-white, and the express purpose of bringing them to the country is 1, to change the electorate, or 2, to increase the crime rates, or 3, to increase the multicultural birth rates, such that white people are eliminated by either 1, losing their voice in the electorate, 2, getting murdered by some of the people coming into the country because minorities might commit higher crime rates, or 3, getting bred out of being pure white because white birth rates are down and interracial birth rates are up. If that's the case, and all of that is being led by Jewish money, and that was all the fact of the matter, then to go around and say, well, I'm principally opposed to being a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. No, of course, at that point, any reasonable person is going to go, holy shit, I need to fucking revolt. I got to do something. I got to fucking do some shit because my fucking entire race is being fucking destroyed by like a higher fucking movement. That's why I'm saying you can't say, well, logically, no matter what the case is, I'm morally, principally convicted with these positions. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm going to tell you, okay,
Sorry, okay, go ahead. That's why I brought up the MS-13 thing.
There's a difference. Okay, there's a difference. I don't think you need to revolt if you find out that people are conspiring against you. Can't you just vote them out of office? Or you're saying that
a Nazi wouldn't believe that. They would say, democracy is dead because it's corporate owned. Fuentes says things like the defense contractors own it, or big business or lobbyists or whatever own it. That's part of their belief system. That has to be attacked.
I agree that has to be attacked. I'm not saying you shouldn't make logical arguments.
Okay. But I'm saying that I'll never make a moral argument.
You keep strawmanning me and saying that I'm saying you shouldn't do what you're doing.
I'm not strawmanning. I understand you're saying that. I'm saying I never want to make a moral argument to another person.
I know, but you have not provided an explanation for that. By saying I want to make logical arguments, you're not providing an explanation for why you wouldn't also make a moral argument.
Because anytime I make the moral argument, I'm disconnecting some huge chunk of their audience.
Okay.
And I'm not losing any of my audience by only fighting on the pragmatic level.
I think you are.
Okay. I don't. Well, if I get emails from people and they're like, Destiny, you didn't say any more.
I think you're both losing your audience, and I think your audience is drifting.
Okay. Not only do I disagree, there's no proof that you can give me of this, and I see plenty of proof to the contrary. I don't know. Like, the only time I lose members in my audience is when I make a legitimate misstep. Those are where I see audience members lost. So if I conduct myself in a poor manner.
That's tautological. I'm saying I think you're making a misstep.
No, when my missteps are things of like accusing Demon Mama of posting her own 4chan thread, or making derogatory statements towards suicidal people on fucking Twitter. Those are the times I'm losing. It's not because somebody's like, I saw him, but like.
Yeah, but this is exactly why you end up doing shit like that.
No, I do shit like that because I hate people on the internet. I lose myself sometimes. I go.
I know that, but part of the problem is that there isn't like a moral. You're unwilling to moralize, and in fact, you're willing to take immoral stances because of how angry you are at people.
None of those are.
That's not me.
No, that's not me taking an immoral stance. That's me making a stupid mistake, and I know I shouldn't do it. Just because you make a mistake doesn't mean you take it.
This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You're willing to say it was stupid, but you're not willing to say it was wrong.
It was wrong. I'm saying it is wrong. But
it's immoral. It's immoral.
No. Okay. I'm sorry. Hold on. We're getting into a weird semantic thing. When you said you're willing to take an immoral stance, what I'm hearing is you saying you're willing to bend your morality. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I'm doing things that are wrong, that I shouldn't be doing. That's what I mean. I think we agree on that. You just used an expression, and I thought you were saying that I'm changing my morality. I'm not changing my morality. I'm actually doing something that's immoral.
I know. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. You're doing something that you think is wrong.
Yeah, it was wrong, yes.
I'm saying the reason that you can be provoked into doing something that you think is wrong is partly because you don't want to take a moral stance. I think this opens you up to like when you said mowing down dipshit protesters, that thing. Obviously,
I don't disagree with the statement. I just worded it wrong at the end. I should have said rioters at the end instead of protesters who want to set buildings on fire. I should have just said rioters.
You worded it morally wrong.
No, I stand by that statement 100%. Every single part of it. What part of it do you think I morally disagree with?
I think it's immoral to say that you wish for violence against rioters or death. You wish death upon rioters until they stop rioting. If you believe that, then why wouldn't you just say the police should just shoot them all?
Because I don't know if the police is the ammunition. Okay. What I'm saying is that if people
that's not a real answer. Actually, if it's okay to shoot rioters to stop the rioting, then why wouldn't you want the police to just do it?
If the police can do it, the police should do it. If the police can do it, the police should do it. Then sure, fine. Sure.
Okay, so you think the police should shoot rioters?
No, I don't think that. The thing is, I don't think pragmatically the police should go around shooting everybody who's fucking
pragmatically,
rioting.
Exactly, but you're unwilling to say, I think it would be morally wrong for the police to shoot rioters. You like have an aversion to saying it.
Because it's a different...
I know you, and I love you. When I say I love you, I know in my heart of hearts... I know in my heart of hearts, guys, I know that Steven does not believe. He's bitten a few bullets in this conversation that while he's gone, I'm going to do a little dentistry and kind of just remove them from his mouth. Destiny does... Wait, am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. Destiny does not believe that the police should shoot rioters. Destiny doesn't believe that. He doesn't mean that, guys. Destiny thinks that it would be wrong for the police to shoot rioters.
The police showing up and shooting rioters is different than people defending their communities. It's a fundamentally different thing.
It would be wrong for the police to shoot rioters.
It's complicated. I don't know the answer to that one is. That's a very difficult question. You can laugh if you want, but the reason why now I'm going to talk about riots and the police and the difficulties thereof, because you know what? People on the far right and people on the far left and people in the center have no fucking idea how fucking complicated it is to deal with riots. They're very hard to deal with, okay? The problem is when you have riots is that you have a limited number. Where's Mad Tips at? Where's my fucking Portland dude? The problem when you have riots is that you have a fuck ton of people that are all breaking the law, and you don't have the manpower to, one, arrest them all, and to, two, control them in a way that doesn't escalate violence. There is no easy way to deal with riots. That's why they shoot tear gas. That's why some people get killed. That's why some people
I get where I know why.
So don't ask me like, oh, well, what is the simple answer that a fucking police officer should have a better right? Riots are one of the most difficult fucking things in the fucking world to control. So no, I don't have a clear answer. When you go, well, look at that, Dustin, I got you because you don't have a fucking crystal clear answer on how the fuck you would deal with riots.
I'm saying you said the police should shoot them.
No, the police probably shouldn't shoot them. But
right, because that would be wrong.
Probably no.
You know that would be. No, it wouldn't be wrong. It would be illogical.
No, it's complicated.
So if somebody like kills somebody you love, are you going to be like, this doesn't make any sense for you to do that? Or are you going to be like, hey, that hurts me and I was wrong?
We're not talking about who's hurt, but I'm saying that communities have a right to defend themselves with violence. Do police have the right to defend communities with violence? I don't know. It's a more complicated question.
They already have that right, but they don't have the right to defend them with death unless they believe.
In the United States, we do. God bless. We absolutely do. In the United States, we have the right to defend our property.
Well, the police do not have the right to defend your property.
Police might not. I don't know. Right. That's right. It's a more complicated.
They can't shoot somebody for trying to steal your car. They arrest them if they think that you're in immediate danger or they're in immediate danger. Then they can shoot them. I think the law on this is pretty established and it's pretty good.
Okay, then police don't have the right, but people in the community do.
But this law is founded on both a logical and a moral core.
What do you mean by that? Police are fundamentally different than the citizens that own the property.
Police are fundamentally... Yes, I'm just saying that you're unwilling to take the soy stance of ever saying it would be wrong for the police to shoot these people.
No, I can probably take that stance. I think
do we have the same chair?
I hope so. It's probably wrong for the police to shoot rioters. Probably, unless they're like doing something that's actually like...
We have the same chair. Maybe I am like you.
Do you think so?
Apparently in fucking one very important way. Oh, God.
I got the same chair too. Just throw that up there.
Really?
Yeah, and I had it before both of you, so.
You really?
Yeah.
Wait, when did you get yours?
2012.
Yeah, that was before me. Dan, what do you think?
About what?
You have this is interesting. I assume that you see some of my side on this, but you also have a similar aversion to appearing soy, or I think you do.
I don't know. I don't know enough about the subject to comment, so I'm just gonna kind of not get involved for a few reasons. But you do you, man. I'm excited for you.
What do you think of the meta conversation?
What's that?
Do you think I'm being rhetorically ineffective, shouting over Steven? Do you think I'm doing the things that you said I was doing yesterday?
Do I think that you're doing things? I mean, I don't fucking know, man. Arguing with Steve is not like, what is this fucking standing shit right now between you two cringe fucks?
Well, my back hurts, and
He started standing, so I figured we would just...
I have to stand. My physical therapist told me not to stand or sit for extended periods of time. I've started to have to set up 2 cameras, and I just switch back and forth between them.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. It's not a power play.
It fucking seems like a power play, I want to be honest with you.
Okay, well,
We'll see. Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. Whoever sits down first is the fucking beta bitch.
Okay.
That's for fucking facts. And if you leave the conversation, like, I'm just saying, okay? Whoever sits down first, don't even fucking say my name again. So we'll see who really actually can.
Dan.
Oh, God damn it. Well, there you go. You won, Steve. Congrats.
Oh,
Thanks.
God. Yeah, I have a disc problem. So.
Have you
I have
tried
to, like,
moralizing?
Yes. Believe me. There's some things it doesn't work for. Nazis and bulging discs.
Okay. Are we at rock bottom yet?
You said you won't say it's wrong for the police to shoot protesters. You still want to bite that bullet? I feel like you're biting. I feel like
No, I
you're
already
biting.
said
I feel
it's-
guilty. I feel guilty about the bullets you're biting.
No, I said that it's probably different.
Yeah, but you won't say it's wrong. Is it wrong for the
it's-
police to shoot rioters?
What do you mean by rioter? You're gonna have to give me more.
See, you won't.
Because
you're
of
biting too
okay.
many bullets. I'm worried. I'm literally worried about how
like,
many bullets
okay,
you're biting.
I understand more why you get upset by my take on language. It's because I think you're the one that thrives in the ambiguous language environment. I think that you have an inability sometimes to grapple concretely with these concepts, and I think that you actually flourish in the areas where there is the maximum amount of ambiguity. It allows you to ask really strong questions,
Like a
and
mole.
every single answer to you is like a choose your own adventure book where you get to turn the next page to whatever chapter you want and go down whatever road you want because you're unwilling to commit yourself to a concrete position. So when you ask me, can you shoot rioters? Well, a rioter in one sense could be defined as a person that's outside at night at 10:01 p.m., 1 minute past curfew, or it could be a dude that's trying to set a building on fire with a family inside. And you ask me, is it okay to shoot either one of those people? What a stupid language game to play. How the fuck could I ever answer that question if you're not willing to provide a little bit more clarity about what you mean by rioter? But you don't want to provide the clarity because you want to prove the point that, well, actually, when I use this definition in this way, I can make this, I can make this as favorable as I want to, and that's what you want to do instead of actually answering the question of what is a rioter, and then you could give me a simple answer, and then I could give you a simple response. But you're unwilling to do that. Instead, you laugh like the Giga Chad, and you say, ha 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 ha, I knew you wouldn't answer this. I win the debate.
Can I respond?
Yeah, of course.
You're straw manning me. This is bullshit.
Why can't you just answer what is a rioter?
I want to respond.
Okay.
You said dipshit protesters, and then you said, I wish I'd said rioters.
Yes. Because I said protesters that are setting.
Well, no, let me finish. Let me fucking.
Well, you didn't finish my
finish.
quote. You didn't finish my
finish.
quote. So yeah.
No, if you. Okay. You said you wish you'd said rioters instead. So we started using the word rioter in this conversation. And now we have a few. Now I guess you're saying that it's confusing. You don't know what I mean by the word rioter. You think that you're unwilling to say it's wrong for the police to shoot rioters because you're pretending. Yeah, you're pretending to think that maybe I'm asking you. Do you think it's okay for the police to shoot anybody who's outside at 10:01? No, you don't think I'm asking that. You're pretending to think
rioters is standing here.
No, let me finish. Let me fucking finish. You're pretending to think that I'm asking you, do you think it's wrong to shoot a rioter who is about to kill a family?
You guys know what time it is, right?
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking whatever the fuck you meant by rioter. I think we both have the same images. People burning down buildings, throwing shit through windows, flipping over cars, punching each other in the face, rioting. Now, I assume when you say, it might be okay for the police to shoot rioters, or when you're talking about mowing down dipshit protester or rioters, I assume you were not talking about people who it's legal for the police to shoot or for other people to shoot in any circumstance. Right? So
when you use riot. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought when you said riot, it was like, because there's usually a question mark inflection up in voice. I thought I could get to respond, but if that was just a rhetorical strategy, you want to keep going. Okay. It is a subject of debate of whether or not people should be allowed to defend their property with lethal force. That was a big contention around the Rittenhouse stuff. And I said, I think that communities have a right, if they want to roll out whatever fucking militias they want, and they want to defend their properties by killing people that are rioting, that are protesters, that are burning down buildings past 10 p.m., I think is what I said. So people engaged in arson, I think that the community should have the right to do that. That's what I said. So when you say, well, would I really ask you if it's okay to kill people that the cops could already kill? Well, I don't know. That was kind of the subject of that entire fiasco, is whether or not police or community members have a right to kill people to protect their property. That was kind of the subject of the entire debate.
Do you think that the police should have the right to shoot people who are committing arson?
Yes, absolutely.
Even if they're not in a riot?
It's going to depend on what if they shout stop and the person doesn't stop, or you probably shouldn't just shoot a person who's going to commit arson. Probably not.
But if it's in a riot, then you think they should have an extra ability to do that?
Potentially. It's going to depend on the exact situation. If it's a 5-year-old who's going to set a building on fire and there's not many people around, or the cops will stop him otherwise, it's not like the first choice.
Is there you know a lot of these rhetorical words. Is there a name for what you just did? It's just is it straw manning, where you pretend that I'm asking about shooting a 5-year-old? Is there a more specific word for that fucking maneuver?
So here's what you're doing. I don't know what you're saying I'm doing. I'm trying to clarify. And you're getting upset about what I'm saying.
You're not clarifying by bringing up 5-year-olds. You are obfuscating. You know that I'm not asking about 5-year-olds.
Here's what you're doing.
Is your statement specifically about riots, or are you just saying that people should shoot people when they can legally shoot them anyway? And
you're asking me if a category of things is wrong. And I'm trying to figure out what part of the subcategories you're talking about. This is the equivalent of you coming to me and going, do you think it's immoral to have sex with somebody when they're asleep? And then I'm like, well, is it somebody you're dating? Have you already gotten consent? Are they like drugged? And you're like, oh, you don't even answer the question. Do you really think I think it's somebody that's drugged? Do you really think I'm asking you if it's a stranger? Why won't you just engage with it honestly? I don't know what the fuck you mean. I don't know what the fuck a rioter is to you. We haven't had a complicated conversation about what you consider to be a rioter or an arsonist.
So therefore you think I might mean a 5-year-old?
I don't know what you mean. That's why I'm asking. So I'm giving you so hold on. When you say, like, is it okay to have sex with somebody that's sleeping? I'm going to give the most absurd example. Sleeping, like a fucking stranger at a party, and then you'll probably go, obviously not a stranger party, and then you'll probably go on to give, like, well, I'm talking about this specific instance or this category of person. So when you say, is it okay to shoot an arsonist? Well, I don't know. If there are, like, 2 teenagers trying to set a fucking a dumpster outside a gas station on fire, and a fucking squad of, like, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, 5-man SWAT teams show up, and like, we're going to fuck it all up. Probably not okay. But if there's a group of, like, 100 people, if there's a group... if there's a group of 100 people outside and they're all like trashing a store and they might start setting shit on fire and the cops show up like, hey, you guys need to disperse and you need to blah, 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 and nobody's listening and people start fighting or whatever, and then people start getting shot or whatever over that, people like Sam Cedar would say, wow, ultimately the cops showed up and they killed people over property, over things like arson, and that's wrong. That was part of the whole argument. Sam Cedar argues, and I talked about this, he says Kyle Rittenhouse killed people in defense of property. And I said, no, he didn't. True.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, but that's not what he thinks.
I know.
Because I said, no, he did it in self-defense. He said, self-defense, why? Because he put himself there to protect property. Kyle Rittenhouse killed people in defense of property. So I don't know what you mean when you say, is it okay for them to kill? That's why I'm trying to clarify. It's very irritating that I'm understanding because you're fighting against my lived experience now, where I've heard that phrase used 50 million different times to mean 50 million different things. And you're trying to pretend like there's a clear-cut definition when you say, should you be able to kill somebody who's committing arson or rioting? And you're pretending like I haven't heard that same phrase uttered in 50,000 different ways by 50,000 different actors?
Can I respond?
Yeah, go for it.
You said the statement.
Yeah, I did.
I stand by this statement 100% about mowing down dipshit rioters.
Yeah. Sorry.
I assumed you had a definition of rioter in mind when you said that sentence.
Okay.
So I changed the sentence, and I assumed that you know this, and this is why I feel like you're obfuscating, because we're taking the statement you made, and I'm saying, what if we change this part of the sentence? What if instead we say it's civilians mowing down dipshit rioters? What if it's the police? And then all of a sudden, you don't know what any of the words you just used mean. All of a sudden, you have to ask me if a rioter means a 5-year-old when you're the fucking person who just used the word.
Because
so wait. So your analogy about can I have sex with somebody who's sleeping question doesn't make any sense, because that would be me using words and you don't know what they mean, but you're using words and then saying you don't know what they mean. Did you mean 5-year-olds when you were talking about mowing down dipshit like protesters? Did you mean 5-year-olds?
You don't know what words I meant. And when
Did you mean 5-year-olds?
No. Max.
Okay, did you think that I thought you meant 5-year-olds?
I can see into the matrix. I can see into the language matrix. I'm enlightened, Max, and that's the problem now. I see everything. Let me give you. I'm going to return to this.
Wait,
no. I didn't mean 5-year-olds. I didn't mean 5-year-olds. I didn't mean 5-year-olds.
Do you think that I thought you meant 5-year-olds?
I don't know what you thought.
Do you think that it's likely that I thought you meant 5-year-olds?
I don't know what you think I thought. I don't know.
Do you think it's like, okay, so you have no opinion?
I have no idea what you think about that.
When you say to me, I think that it's okay to mow down dipshit rioters, you're thinking, as I'm saying this, there's a decent chance that Max thinks I mean 5-year-olds. And I'm
not 5-year-olds, but you might think I mean anybody that's out rioting. Maybe that means anybody out there past curfew.
I thought you meant 5-year-olds.
I don't know. Not 5-year-olds.
That's what you asked me. That's the example you gave me. When I asked your own question back to you, you're like, well, how the fuck do I know what anything means now? You said it. That's why I've been so fucking insistent on this, because it prevents you from obfuscating when I say, let's just use your definition for everything. You can use your definition, because this is your community we're talking about your messaging to, so you can use your definition.
Okay, real quick, I have to leave in like 2 minutes, okay? So, because I have said I would moderate another debate 25 minutes ago, okay? So so here's the issue, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say that I make a statement like this, and I say, I think it's okay to fuck my girlfriend while she's asleep. Let's say that I say that statement, okay? Yeah. And then you come up to me and you're like, oh, wait, hold on. Do you think it's okay to come on somebody's face while they're asleep? Now, you're only changing like one part of that statement, but you might have a
No, I changed two parts of the statement. One is come and one is somebody. I changed girlfriend to somebody. I didn't do that with your statement. I just changed one part.
You changed, first you said protesters.
You changed it to rioter.
Well, because my original definition was protesters who set things on fire, which is a rioter. Yes, then you changed it to arsonist. So, which specifically means setting a building on fire. You changed two parts of it.
You changed those parts. You said I didn't mean protester, I meant rioter. And I said, okay, let's say rioter. And then you said, what if they're setting a building on fire? I said, okay, then let's say arsonist. I keep going on, I'm following you.
Okay, you can engage with the conversation. all I'm asking you, this is why I know that I'm in the right in this conversation, and I'm actually, now my mind is solidified, no feedback will change my mind. This is why I know that I'm more consistently correct in all of our conversation. You can write me an essay, try to explain it later. Every time you've gotten mad at me, it's when I'm trying to get further clarification on what you're saying. And I think that when I'm seeking clarification for your definitions and you get upset, it's because you're playing word games and you're either too ignorant to realize it, or you're getting upset because I'm not letting you run to the conversation wherever you want to go. If you're getting mad at me for seeking clarification, that is a you problem that you need to either work out in therapy or on your stream or in some other rhetorical or logical way, and I'm not going to help you with it. I'm never going to change the way that I have conversations or address them. It is your problem if when I ask you for clarification, you're actually getting mad at it. And it's happened so many times in this conversation. What is a Nazi? What does anti-Semitic mean? What is a Jewish conspiracy? What is an arsonist? You're getting upset when I'm trying to clarify because I want to have a real conversation about real fucking topics and real fucking policies, and you want to get I'm like, well, I'm just asking if it's like a fucking arsonist, blah, 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 blah. If you get mad at that, I don't give a fuck, okay? I'll give you the final word on this, and then I have to go. I got to do this.
My last question.
Yeah, go.
If I believe you're asking for clarification in bad faith to create confusion and to obfuscate, and it's not a real question, but you're actually derailing what I'm saying, what do you want me to do if I think you're doing that?
Then you answer the question, you explain why you think it's in bad faith. But really, actually, no, you should hang up. If you really think I'm truly functioning in bad faith, then obviously my only goal is going to be to try to run circles around you with debate bro tactics. I'm going to avoid every question you ask. If you really truly think, but I don't know why the fuck you would come to my stream and argue about this for the third time if you think I'm doing it in bad faith.
Because I don't think you're only bad faith. I just think that some of the things you do are evasive. But if you're saying if I think you're being evasive at all, I should hang up on you.
And your examples of me being evasive are me trying to clarify what the fuck you're actually asking me half the time. Because you're content to just hang these things out there. But like, do you think that he's a Nazi?
Do you concede that some people
do you think that he's a
to
fascist? Do you think he's yeah, some people could. But I'm just trying to get clarification. I'm fucking opening a notepad. I'm trying to fucking type down every fucking word you're saying for some of these statements. And then you're saying I'm strawmanning you and I'm bad faith. And I'm trying my fucking best to understand what the fuck you're saying. And when I ask for clarification, you get upset.
What do you want me to do?
Mad.
If I think you're doing that, do you want me to not say that I think you're?
Then just say I think you're missing the point here, or I think that this is disanalogous, or I think that this. But don't say like, oh, you're trying to obfuscate by doing this. I'm not trying to obfuscate. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck we're talking about. There's been like 7 different times in our conversation where I've had to pull back and I go, Max, what the fuck is the macro convo? What are we fucking talking about right now? Because earlier you were like, the only thing I want you to do is define Nazi and say whether or not he's a Nazi. And I did that like halfway into this convo. Like, okay, Max, I did that. Now what are we talking about? It's like, well, now I'm upset because okay, well, and then I have to back up and figure out, well, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? And you're getting upset every time I try to seek clarification. Maybe you think that my seeking clarification is like a Nazi debate strategy or some shit. I don't know, but like, I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck we're talking about.
Okay, so if I think you're being evasive, you want me to not say that?
Say that like, this is just clarify what you mean. Like, I love talking. I'll talk for as much as you want to clarify whatever you want. I'm not trying to be evasive. I think I'm pretty to the point and I speak pretty quickly and I try to get like really quickly to where I want to
go. If you say something and I think it's evasive, you want me to just not think it's evasive? I can't control that.
What do you think is an example of like, what do you think is an example of me being evasive? Just real quick. And then, just one example.
Asking me if I meant 5-year-olds.
Okay, when I asked you if you meant 5-year-olds, it's because, let me just give a
what do you want me to do?
This is what I want you to do, okay? You're saying, so is it okay for the police to shoot arsonists? And I'm going, fuck, I don't know. That's, if I say yes, your next question is going to be, oh, okay, so say there are a group of teenagers and they're trying to set fire to trash cans for fun. You think the cops should be able to kill them? And then I go, okay, no, shut the fuck up. And then I go, okay, no, probably not in that case. Now you've got me. You fucked me in the ass. You're going to go back
there and say, I wouldn't do that to you.
You have been this whole conversation,
I would never do that to you. I would never,
you're just wrong.
ever engage in such bad faith. I would never do that to you. I would never give you a ridiculous example that you obviously didn't mean.
That's not a ridiculous example. No, I wouldn't do that to you.
That's straw manning. I wouldn't straw man you like that.
That's not a ridiculous example. No, that's not a ridiculous example. You asked me a question. Is it okay for the cops to kill arsonists?
A 5-year-old is a ridiculous example.
You can say that today, but a group of teenagers setting shit up for, dude, I used to do this as a fucking
5-year-old.
Dude, you're not even engaging. I'm telling you that if I answer yes to that question, you could spin up a million hypothetical scenarios that make me look really bad and would probably be a thing I wouldn't say yes to. And now I've got to say, okay, if it was a group of teenagers like setting pieces of paper in front of them, probably not have the cops shoot them. And you go, oh, so then you would walk back and you go, now you're being weaselly. You've done it to me about the definition of every fucking word we've argued about.
I wouldn't do that to you. I would not. No, I wouldn't. I haven't. I've said we can use your definition for every single word. Every single time I've been very clear, we can use your definition. I'm not going to try to say like, well, technically a 5-year-old with a lighter is an arsonist. So now you're saying it's okay for the police to shoot 5-year-olds? You keep going back to the 5-year-old.
I'm saying you can use teenagers.
Okay, now I get it. I get why you're doing it now. You don't trust me.
No.
You don't trust me. You don't trust me enough. You think that I'm going to be bad faith. And so you're trying to wall off further lines of argumentation that you think I'm going to go down that I'm not going to. No, I'm not going to do that to you.
I'm walling it off because I want to remain clear as fuck about what
you don't need to bring
about.
up 5-year-olds to be clear about what you mean by arsonists.
If I say...
Yes, you do need to bring up teenagers, but not 5-year-olds.
If I say cops should be able to kill arsonists, and then you ask me next, do you think teenagers setting trash cans on fire qualify for that?
I wasn't going to ask you that. I knew what you meant. I knew,
really?
I knew you meant...
Okay, hold on. What did I mean then? Tell me.
People setting fire to buildings that have people inside or are likely to have people inside.
Okay, maybe. They don't have to have people inside. I think just defensive property is worthwhile enough.
Okay, I was giving you the benefit. I was giving you an even
You haven't
narrower...
been charitable to be at any...
Yes, that is a charitable interpretation.
Yeah, that is a charitable interpretation, but you haven't been charitable for any other part of it. Why would you be charitable now?
Because you said that you gave the example of arsonists setting fire to a building with people inside.
Okay.
So I'm using your example. You don't trust me enough. I see the whole problem now.
Okay.
We need to work on that.
We'll work on it. Okay. I love you, buddy. I appreciate the conversations. It's been fun. Be careful.
I do too. Okay. Bye.
Why are you here? Are you still here? Or did you go AFK?
Oh, should I not be here?
No, it seems like this would be very boring. How do you, how are you feeling?
Okay. How are you feeling?
It's so hard.
Yeah. Well, what can you say, you know?
Hi, buddy.